Nip slips. Fantastic. Welcome, everybody. Oh, God. I feel like we're already rails off. Like, the wheels are off. We haven't even started. Shenanigans already. What's happening, everybody? Welcome to Sunday. Welcome to another edition of Gloves Off. This is show number 3, right?
Oh. I didn't see you there.
Uncle Touchy is having such a great time touching himself right now. Living up to his namesake is what's happening today on the show. Yeah. So, hi, I'm Fuse, Jason. I had to wear a silly hat, just because I had to try to keep up with my wonderful, the most amazing, Hypro Glow, shiny guy on the planet, Uncle Touchy.
He's kind of a big deal.
Freshly ordained this week, I'm officially Reverend Touchy.
Reverend Touchy.
I want to have you think about that for a second. I want you guys to think about this.
There's a whole expose about that.
I nearly said I want to have you guys think long and hard about this, but I don't feel like long and hard need to be words that we use in this stream today. So,
Sunday.
so we have Reverend Touchy on a Sunday in a lounge suit or a smoking jacket, and I want you guys to take notice of this Twitch terms of service breaking outfit that he has going on here with that amazing chest hair bouncing out right there. I don't know.
It's man lettuce.
Man lettuce.
That is.
There's man lettuce in the house.
We have that. It's official.
And of course, the wonderful unicorn herself, Fantastic! Ow. 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 What's going on, everybody? Welcome you guys watching on YouTube as well. If you're watching on YouTube, you're catching this after the fact. You should join in on the fun live right here on Twitch, 12 p.m. noon Pacific time every Sunday for Gloves Off. So make sure next time, get your act together, man.
Because you could contribute to the shenanigans in chat.
You could.
If you say shenanigans one more
I
time.
like the word shenanigans.
It's a good word.
Eat
It
for
is a good word.
shenanigans.
It is a good word. You used to jingle your keys and call shenanigans when people were saying stupid crap in front of you. So that was the thing.
What is it
Really?
here?
That was the thing.
Wow.
That was the thing. What's going on, guys? All right, for episode 3, as you know, we are going to run down our main event today is going to be our final review for Deep Wars. Mike C. and I played Deep Wars last weekend. If you were here, if you weren't, catch episode 2 in the backlog over on YouTube. And you'll see our fun and our frustration with the game, I think. It's a good balance of a game, but we're going to get into that, talk more about what we like, what we don't like, how we both kind of come through and give it our final marks. And then we've got all sorts of other news to speak with you about. Of course, everybody knows that this weekend, starting last Wednesday technically, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and ending today, is the amazing Gen Con. It is kind of the mecca for tabletop gaming in the United States. Probably the world's largest tabletop gaming convention.
I think that's what everyone calls it, at least.
And it sells out like nearly immediately. There's pictures all over the web of, all the signs on the doors are about, tickets sold out. If you don't have a ticket, you're not getting in, kind of a thing. So it's a pretty amazing event. Unfortunately, we did not get a chance to go this year. We will be there next year doing live reporting, but this year, no go. Too busy. Other things happening. But we will be talking about some of the big prime points that we've heard from Gen Con and discuss and see what maybe you guys out in the crowd like to think. As always, as you listen to us ramble and rant, please leave all your comments down below if you're on YouTube so we can get back to you. Like that. Anyway. So, on with the show. First thing to talk about.
They say I have low volume.
You have low volume. You always have low volume. She is the quietest person on the planet.
I tested the mic with my own little mini rendition of Ice Ice Baby.
She made it all the way through.
And it was never good.
Fine.
No,
It was
absolutely
fantastic.
never good. So,
It was as good as the metal version.
well, her rendition of Ice Ice Baby was good, but she never gets volume on the mic. I don't know. The unicorn is not made for microphoning. Dice roll for not having Gen Con. Not a thing. Can't just call those things. Can't just call them.
Do I just need to hold it like this?
You could. You could. Here, maybe if we do this and then this.
I'm gonna mess everybody else up.
Well, if I turn us down, how about you try now? Do your Ice Ice Baby.
Ice Baby.
No, she's
It's just me.
No.
she's incompatible
It's just
with
me.
microphones. She
Maybe
is
it's the
just
words.
Literally
Different song.
incompatible with microphones.
Her name was Lola.
She
She was a
showgirl.
Hang on, folks. Let me
Yeah,
see.
let me see.
Hang on. I know what her problem is that her mic's not even plugged in. Plug it in again. I do believe.
We have this wonderful thing when we do mic tests that we always just get Jason going through our own mics. It's
I
really
don't know
awesome.
how much further I can plug it in.
All right. Well, see if that works.
Just yank on it.
All right. No more technology defunks. We're going to just fight through it. She's good.
You just have to deal with it.
There you go. I think you're better now.
Oh, okay.
I think she's on now. Stop rubbing your smoking jacket. Stop rubbing your. It's going to completely be hard for me to pay any attention today because he's just sitting here rubbing himself all day. Unprepared. We were prepared. We were total. Okay, I'll take a die roll for that. I think we have to. I think they're asking for it. So we got. What's the hit number?
I'd say it's a whole channel dice roll, so you have to roll one, I have to roll one.
And she has to roll one.
Well, she can't.
I don't
She's
have
horrible.
one.
She's immune.
She's horrible.
She's immune.
Damn it. So we both have to take it? What is it?
I say hits on a 3-up.
Hits on a 3-up?
Yep.
Oh my god. Or was this one for you?
No, this one's for you.
I have to take the first one?
Yeah, Agent for Beauty.
Come on, ones and twos. Yes! Yes! No, nothing. Nothing. Impervious to pain. Mike C. Taking a hit. Oh!
1 in 36 right there. Oh. Numero
Well, you know, chat called for those, so technically we both won.
I, for one,
High five.
love Roman numerals.
High five. We beat chat on that one. I know she has immunity. I was just hoping that we could do that. Why not? I feel like that's a thing.
I don't know, LT. I'm making it, I guess, really hard for Jason.
We're not going to say those words on TV.
Well, that's what LT said. He said, I'm not sure that's okay to say on either Twitch or YouTube.
Yeah.
What's that?
How hard I'm
That
making
you're
it.
making it hard, that he's making it hard for you.
I'm trying to give up innuendos, but it's just so hard.
Off the rails already. All right, guys, let's get into the wonderful calendar Reno. Let's see what we got going on this month. As you know, today we're doing the Deep Wars thing. Next week, very, very special show next week. It is Jen's birthday.
What?
Yeah, I know. Craziness ensuing. Next week and on Sunday, it is the actual day of the unicorn's birth into the world. We will be celebrating said birth day by allowing Jen to play some tabletop games.
Allowing me?
Yeah.
Ooh.
We're going to let her near miniatures. We're going to let her roll dice. We're going to let
I'm not
her
sure.
probably
You know
whoop my
what?
ass because she's very, very good at these games.
Maybe I'm going to just choose not to take
No, but Sunday's going to be great. It is Jen's birthday, so come celebrate it with us next week. We will be playing Arena Rex for the first time. For those of you who don't know, during the course of the week this week, it will be the paint-along for the Arena Rex Tribune from the Ludus Magnus Gladiator School. So if all of that is Greek to you, haha, see what I did there?
Ooh.
Actually, I think it's
Oh,
Roman,
hey.
but Greco-Roman. We kind of think of it as all the same.
Well,
even
the
though
Aeneid's like part 2, right?
they'll get mad at us
Iliad, Aeneid.
because Rome's technically not in Greece.
Well, it wasn't built in a day.
No, that's true too. But gladiatorial combat in miniature, it's a great game. We're going to be joined during the week by the guys from the studio. Their hobby director is going to be joining us for the paint along as we go through. There were a bunch of the models that were sent out. And during the course of this week, we'll be giving one away. So stay tuned for that. We'll be giving away one of the tribunes away during the paint along, so you'll be able to get one in your hands if you don't already have one. So that's happening this week, and then of course we'll culminate with next weekend doing the playthrough. Jen and I will be learning it together, and then the following week we'll do our review, and you'll get to hear Jen's take on miniature wargaming because Uncle Touchy's leaving us for 2 weeks.
Whatever.
I have a religious journey. I have to marry 2 souls. I have to join them in holy matrimony.
Reverend-
There's nothing
Reverend
holy about the
Touchy.
matrimony with Reverend Touchy doing it. I feel like if you're gonna get married, good on ya. Do not hire someone named Reverend Touchy.
There's a Friar Tuck. Now there's a Reverend Touchy.
That's not the same.
What? Tuck and Touchy don't go together?
Not on this channel.
Tuck is something very different.
Face is killing me. Oh God! Somebody save me.
I hope that this wedding that you perform will be documented so we can all enjoy it.
Oh,
I want
God.
to see the Reverend Touchy in action.
I already have my kilt packed, I have my Deadpool mask packed, and I have a Russian beer maid outfit packed. This is going to be a great wedding. I don't know if I'm going to make it back.
I have a fez.
You do?
I have a Fez. Holy heck. What is happening
I like
today?
this. LT has a true fact. Unicorns are born with their horn already formed, but it doesn't harden until after it's exposed to air for the first time.
It would hurt if it was already hardened when they were born.
Would hurt the mother.
My point exactly. My point exactly.
We will
All right.
not be painting unicorns, but if you feel like you want to put a little pressure on this guy over here
Me?
to make my unicorn hat,
She wants a unicorn hat.
Mm.
That might have to happen for her birthday. That might.
it'll
Ugly.
take you all of 10 minutes.
There is some sexy bare man chest
Oh,
happening
yeah.
over there, and yeah, it's making it very hard to concentrate on what's happening today.
Why, hello there.
So,
Look back at me. Now look at Fuse. Now look back at me. Sadly, he is not me. But he could smell like me if he didn't use lady-scented body washes.
how did you find this out, and why are you announcing it in public?
At least I'm wearing pants.
My body wash is mine.
But I'm wearing pants.
He
But you
likes
don't
to
ha-
smell like a flower.
I knew I forgot something. So yeah, right. I smell like a bundle of roses.
He does.
Or something.
It's quite lovely.
Yeah, or something.
I smell quite lovely. All right. So what have we been doing this week?
Getting ready for this Arena Rex. I'm very excited about that.
He's painting all the models, by the way.
Yeah, all of them. Yeah, all of them. So because I'm still, a novice painter or mid-level painter, I thought it's time to actually delve into the non-metal metallic world. I got to actually try that with the brushes that you have. What are the Wicks?
The new Bomb
The
Wicks. Yes,
So,
Mike C got
What are
himself
they
some
called?
Bomb Wick brushes.
So we can put this on. I guess we can show the whip.
The whip,
Do whip.
Quick. The whip.
el whipperino.
So these are two of the guys. I mean, we have another one who's I haven't gone in the middle with him yet. There is a fourth one that is still not. There's no paint on the model yet, but working the flesh tones and now trying to get into the metals and really kind of see exactly how this whole non-metal metallic idea works. Some growing pains. Luckily, I had Fuse help me out a little bit on Thursday. We talked with it, went over value, how to make things, and also how to stay away from symmetry.
Yep.
That was a big thing. I found myself naturally going towards symmetry, even though I was trying to convey the non-metal metallic look. And he was reminding me that now that if it's symmetrical on both sides of, like, let's say the shield, it's going to look more like a pattern, like it's intentional rather than it's a random reflection. So going through that, learning those trials and tribulations.
I think you got it pretty good too. I mean, from just the small amount of work that we were able to catch on Thursday, I was seeing a lot of progress on it too. So good stuff on him. These models are really cool. You can't beat the resins, number one.
They did
So-
a fantastic job.
Yeah, detailing is great on them. We'll be talking about them quite a bit as we go through the game, but I'm super stoked. The combination of resin and metal is a little tricky for some people. The weapons tend to be metal that you're gluing on to the resin bases, but still good. Great models, great fun. A little bit larger than your standard 28 millimeter stuff, so a lot of detail you can pull out in painting a little bit easier. So I'm stoked to be able to do this, the paint along with the Tribune this week, and then get into some playing because I'm excited about the game in general.
No, and then we still get Wild West Exodus after this game.
Wild West Exodus will be our focus in September. So he's got a bunch of cowboys.
We do have the. I think I'm the lawman for this
You are
for this group.
the Wyatt Earps,
The Earps of the world. Earps unite.
the Doc Holidays, and the Earps.
So there's and
How many of these do you have?
There's-
You're making. Good God, did they just keep?
There's- wait,
How do
but
you-
wait.
What is the?
Billy Mays
I don't-
here
with
for a
the-
Wild West Exodus, and there's actually even more. There's
Okay.
actually, there's a jet bike. I actually have. Well, actually, you've got the jet bike. I've been trying to play with that little metallic medium because I wanted to do a candy coat on this. It didn't work so well, so we're not going to stay long on that.
A candy coat in flames.
Put
always
that-
goes.
that right over
it
here
worked
on the
way I
side.
thought it would work, but I'm having a good time with these
The
guys.
genius of hobby. Again, these are great miniatures. The Wild West Exodus stuff we're really excited to play with as well. I mean, we're excited about everything that we get to touch around here. I just said that.
Yeah.
Yes, you
I
did.
just the words are exiting my skull, I'm hearing them prior, and I'm thinking to myself, this is not going to end well, Fuse.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm invading your mouth.
Yeah, there's
Oh.
So, we'll see you after we get pulled.
so good and yet so horrible. Oh,
Yeah.
you know what? Speaking of which,
Doesn't speak of anything.
Speaking of which,
Oh, the
please.
title. No, but I'm actually really enjoying these Wild West Exodus models. They have a lot of great detail and a lot of opportunities. You can work your leather technique. You can work with cloth. If you want to work some other types of things, it's a real great opportunity. My guys have shoulder pads. That's actually why I jumped in the non-metal metallic look, is because they have this blend of like an old Western culture and this kind of like alien technology vibe. So you're mixing metals. Your different things are taking place. So you've actually got to challenge yourself to get different types of contrast on the model, which I thought it was a great thing if you wanted something different but wanted to practice, your techniques. Because I'm actually trying to figure out how to scar up leather, how to do those things, and eventually when I get to the hats, I think that's where I'm going to be doing a lot of that work. It's because obviously you're going to be able to see it. But I thought it was a good opportunity to take some earth shades and actually find out how to work different contrasts, but not going uber bright.
Yeah.
Actually play with the shades, play with different colors going into the shades.
I dig it. He's got some colors that I would not have thought about as far as like the leathers. I'm really liking the kind of like tanned hide hats, that kind of like light rawhide, leather cowboy hat thing going on. I'm digging it.
So we'll see how it goes.
I'm digging it. They're going great. They're going great.
Both of these are going to be real fun games. I'm looking forward to this. I like the Arena Rex because it's only got a few couple models and you can start playing the game. And
You can literally play it, I think, with as few as 3 models a side, which is great. And the box sets come with 4, correct?
I think the box set came with 3.
Box set comes with 3.
Comes with 3, and I grabbed an extra one off, which was the guy with the shield.
Mm-hmm.
This guy is my all-time favorite.
I don't want to have to play against the big guy with the axe.
And that's when I was painting this guy, I was actually because you gave me the tip about the horizon line in the back.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I went with the reflection in the front is I just had this picture of this big guy being real stoic and quiet and slowly spinning that blade in his hand. So it's just slowly rotating. And just the light just traveling along the blade as it spins.
Being as daunting as possible.
Oh, there's a few things that I would, just say, no, I give up on. That's one of them. I'm not messing with that man with that axe.
I think in that outfit you'd have done very well in gladiatorial combat.
Well, lover, not a fighter.
I think they'd have been scared of you. I think so. I'm just going to say, that's my 2 cents on the whole thing. I think that's the thing. All right, good stuff.
How about you? What have you been doing?
Well, yeah, over the course of the week during the stream, we painted a couple of things. We got to do quite a bit of work on Ferrus Manus. We showed off a couple of episodes ago, I think. We showed off Ferrus Sans' head. We got Ferrus's head. There you go. On cam. Ferrus's head. We painted Ferrus's head. So Ferrus got a head, and I go watch the VOD. It was a great way to show how to go through some really simple steps on getting fleshes done. If you're doing, in this case, like a more dark Caucasian skin, and we worked through, I think that was Tuesday of this last week, and just showed everybody how you can go through. We used Army Painter paints almost exclusively, and in 3 colors over pre-highlight without spending a lot of time. And during the show, we got that completely done. So I think that was really good. A lot of people gave us favorable response over helping with the skin tones. And then for the rest of the week, we got to work on this custom sculpt that I don't know if we've shown her off on Gloves Off before, but she's been on the stream a couple of times. This is Nina from the Breath of Fire world of video games and manga and all the things that come along with it. And this was a custom sculpt done by Joxel, who is also a streamer here on Twitch. And he did this for one of our viewers, Cybound, and Cybound commissioned him to kind of blend some different iterations from the various Breath of Fire games of Nina. So we've got, the clothing from one episode, the wing color of another, just kind of all of his favorites thrown in. Really, really nice model. I think Joxel wound up if my memory serves me right, I think he wound up molding 10 of these. And so this is one of 10 in the world that's going off to Cybound. And so we've been painting, and on this week's stream, we focused on how to go for that OSL glow. She has a ball of fire in her hand, and that is the primary light source on the model. And so we've been working really hard to get people some understanding on how they can build up from your base layers and setting up the glow and staging all of the light on the model and working through. So that's turning out really well. I'm really, really happy with how she's coming out, especially with the light on those wings. So good stuff there. Again, we worked on her on Wednesday and Friday. So if you're interested in catching up on where we're at and how we got here, you can go back and check out the VODs on Twitch at slowfusegaming.com. and just check out how we got from there to here. So had a lot of fun doing her. And-
I never realized how big that model was until I saw it in person.
Yeah.
If I was just painting that, I would be very intimidated to throw that glow on the wings because it is so big.
It's 10 inches, that model, from bottom of the base, and we've got to get her on a larger display base here pretty soon because she's not good at standing up on her own.
No?
The
That's what she's
wings
going.
are so
Well, top
heavy
heavy.
on that one, and the base is like a 50-cent piece. So she has a tendency to want to take a dive backwards. So we're going to put her on a custom base for Sci-Bound so that she is more display quality. But yeah, just a little bit more to go, get that base finished up. I'm really happy with how she's turning out. So that was my hobby stuff. Did you finish your rug? Wink, wink, nudge. Oh, the bow of shame. You
Hey,
started that
I
rug
was
with such
gone.
a fury. Oh, that's true. She's been here a total of like 3 days, I think, in 2 weeks.
Yeah, something like that.
So you literally have been traveling all of California, I think.
All of that little
Planes,
part
trains,
of
and
California.
automobiles. Probably no trains, but
No trains.
no trains. So Jenna's been gone. She just joined us again for the first time on Friday, which was good to have her back.
Good to be back.
So not a lot of hobby progress
Is it?
for
Is it
late
really?
Jen.
It is, though. I missed Bella.
We all miss Bella. But they wouldn't give Bella a munchkin today. I brought munchkins. Bella did not get one.
Is anybody else noticing what's happening here? She missed
Oh, I
Bella.
missed you, too.
Oh, me too. Great. Great. She missed me too. So awesome. I feel the love. I don't feel any love at all. None whatsoever.
No love for food.
No love at all, I tell you what. All right, let's get over and talk about some of what's been going on at Gen Con. What do you want to talk about first? I feel like I want to talk about what to me was the largest release during the Gen Con thing.
Go for it.
And that's this.
What's that?
I don't know who of you out there, if you live under a rock, you might not have heard about this release that came out from Fantasy Flight Games at Gen Con. You haven't heard about it because you're too busy wearing this outfit.
Yes, Houdini 7, I did miss chat a lot.
No, she didn't. She didn't miss any of you people. Fantasy Flight Games released information that they are coming out with a new game called Star Wars Legion, the picture you can see up there on the screen, and it is sizing up to be a very, very interesting tabletop war game. It is at a 32 millimeter size.
Okay.
So already larger than your standard 28 millimeter games. It's more akin to like the Deep Wars, the Arena Rex style that we're looking at. So I feel like the miniatures, once we get them in our hand, are going to have the ability to have a lot more detail and hopefully a lot better sculpting going on than the other miniature games we're seeing from Fantasy Flight Games right now. X-Wing is great.
Which one?
I don't know the name of it. I have heard something about warring runes and things. And anyway, Fantasy Flight Games hopefully is going to get the miniature molding together and get some good sculpts for us so that we can have the crisp armor of stormtroopers. We can have, really good sci-fi miniatures to have. And I feel like this game gives Fantasy Flight an opportunity to once again kick it into overdrive and carve out another niche of tabletop wargaming for themselves, because they are going straight after the big dogs on this one. And I say the big dogs, Fantasy Flight technically is the big dog. Between Armada and X-Wing, they covet 2 of the top 5 miniature wargaming slots in the world. So, and think about that for a second. X-Wing's number 1, and Armada is like number 4. And Armada beat out War Machine and Hordes this year. So even though we don't hear a lot about Armada, it's still gaining that traction worldwide that I think is allowing them to be able to do things like this. Bring out more properties. The Star Wars property, the IP, has been doing really, really well for them. X-Wing took the world by storm, still growing immensely. Tremendous amount of podcast coverage of it, tremendous amount of tournament coverage of it. You can find X-Wing info out there everywhere. It's a growing game. We're on Wave 11. They just announced Wave 12, I think. The ships that are going to be coming out in Wave 12 at Gen Con.
Yep.
And so they've got so much momentum, and it's good to see them taking this momentum and starting to build up more content for the IP, especially where it comes to Star Wars. People love it. The new movies are growing. We grew up in a time where Star Wars was new, but you didn't really get into Star Wars until much later, and the movies are great. I like the new stuff. The stories are good. It's getting people interested. As far as a tabletop game that can compete from the skirmish kind of level all the way up to full tabletop battles. I mean, we're talking about, from what I've understood, is that the 1,000-point level is kind of their tournament goal with it. Now, what we hear, we don't know exactly right now. I don't think about individual point costs for models. What does a Stormtrooper cost? Does it cost 2 points? Can I have 500 of them in a 1,000-point battle? Because, oh my God,
Well, you're
500
not gonna hit
Stormtroopers and I'm going to roll 1,000 dice and hit nothing. But it'll be fun while it lasts, right? And really stoked about it. It's got me turning on my radar to find out more information, and hopefully we'll be able to deliver more info as it comes out, as we start seeing the box set. They've got a real strong release date. We're by the end of the year going to have all of the original trilogy content for it, I think. Maybe not all, but enough original trilogy content in the game to get you going. So you'll have all of the New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi kind of stuff. So we've already seen in the starter set comes with Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader as the two principal characters in it. You've got Stormtroopers, you've got heavy weapon Stormtroopers, you've got Scout Troopers on bikes for the Imperial, and for the Rebels you've got Luke, you've got the kind of indoor-looking Imperial, that almost camo looking Rebel uniforms, and then you've actually got a Rebel on an AT-RT. I think it's a walker. It's like a scout walker, right? But it's a small one-man open-topped heavy weapon for support fire for them. So there's some really neat models already in just the starter box, and I think they're targeting it at like $90. They're that kind of standard box.
They're gonna have Ewoks, squats.
Hopefully, no, unless they're on a spit that you can have as a campfire. Eat
Dinner.
I think eating Ewoks is what they were good for. Stormtroopers are 11 points each and 200 or so for leaders, says Splinter MD.
Okay.
Yeah, Matchstick Man said if you check out Sarastro on YouTube, you can see the detail in the sculpts. Much
Nice.
better than Rune Wars, even better than Imperial Assault.
Nice. Ewoks eat
Ewoks
people.
eat people.
Yeah. So we got some people in chat telling us that Stormtroopers look like about 10 or 11 points apiece, 200 or so for leaders. So that makes it to where it looks like the 800-point core is 350 points per side without upgrades. Okay, and so they'll have unit upgrades. There's a lot of card component to it. The activation system sounds very unique, and the fact that you have activation cards that not only your leaders bring to bear, but other special equipment that you have. Those activations you can play in a particular order. You get to guide it. It sounds like the standard activation for units is more along the lines of like bolt action, where you have a randomness to it. So it's kind of that fog of war. You don't know who's going to activate when, so your planning can get a little mixed up.
Okay.
So I like in concept. I'm really digging it. We'll see how the balancing works with like unit leader cards and things that allow you to take things out of that randomness and actually say this unit's going to move now. This unit's going to move now. That's the feel that I get from it. So more news to come. Obviously, the game will be here by the end of the year. We've sent out messages to Fantasy Flight. Hopefully, we can get it in here because December is our Star Wars month here on Gloves Off. So we'll be focusing not only on the painting stream, doing repaints of things from X-Wing and Armada, some Rebel, or what is it called, the Star Wars, what's the other miniature game that they've got?
X-Wing? Armada?
No.
Yes,
I don't know.
that one.
We've got a Scout Walker for their other game that seems like it's not near as much fun as this, but I'll probably pay a lot.
Battlefront or something?
No, that's the video game. But whatever. But we'll be spending all of December focused in on Star Wars, and hopefully we'll have some content from this that's out by then that can allow us to play, get our hands on and feet under it, and see what we like about it. So I'm really stoked about it. I hope you guys are too. Literally. Puts them in another light. If the miniatures are good, the game plays well, it has a tournament structure like X-Wing, they really dive behind the tournaments, the store championships, the support at the local level for stores that want to carry it to make sure the product's there. This is a hobbyist game. It's an unbuilt miniatures, unpainted miniatures game. So you're going to have to go back to just like we are with Warhammer, War Machine, Infinity, everything we do, you got to glue it together, you got to paint it once it's glued, you got to base it, you got to really be paying attention. So I'm glad to see them heading that way. Rune Wars was good. You have to paint it. It comes unpainted. Models suck. Gaming system is supposedly really good.
Okay.
So I think Fantasy Flight with their rule sets is really targeting some neat, unique rule play, but also keeping it in the wheelhouse of what makes people want to put miniatures on the table and play war games in the first place. So as long as they can keep that up, introduce some new rules, there's not just a rehash of Rune Wars, not a rehash of, X-Wing or anything like that. If it plays completely different, gives us good miniatures, lives in the Star Wars world, feels balanced, or at least they do a good job of attempting to balance over the lifespan of it and continue new content. All those things that you got to do as a manufacturer, I feel like they got a hit. I feel like they have a hit before they even release it.
True.
And this isn't something that they just said, hey, new Kickstarter, 14 months, then we get it. This is literally going to hit before the end of the year. So big thumbs up to Fantasy Flight Games. Great stuff. Great announcement from them. Excited to see where it goes.
Yeah. Hoping they pull off the rule set that actually matches what you have in your mind when you think Star Wars.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the big question I have for it. I'm stoked. I'm probably going to play the Empire, which is going to be a little trippy because we got to paint white, and then I actually got to paint black.
You got to paint white. Well, you could have all your stormtroopers be pink.
Yeah,
this is a thing you could do.
All right. We could have Hello Kitty troopers.
You could have Hello Kitty troopers. You could
So,
do that.
with
Or
that- that's a thing.
Rainbow Bright warriors or something like that.
Ooh,
Yeah.
all right, with cutie marks.
I'm glad I'm filling his head with these ideas. By the way, I feel like hashtag blame Jason is going to be the theme of the week.
Oh, and then we could do a sugar skull on top of Vader. He could be a sugar skull Vader.
There you go. If that's what you want to do with it, the
I
good
like
thing
it.
about the hobby is it's there to be whatever you need it to be for you at that time.
Whole hobby toolbox on this one, huh?
I feel like I'm not going to help you paint those at all. So that's a thing. So we're just not even going to talk about it. All right. What else we got?
Well, there's actually a couple of big announcements from Gen Con. I think Fantasy Flight might take first with all the gross amount of announcements they got coming out from Gen Con. They have Twilight Imperium that's coming out. I think it's the fourth
That's right.
edition.
They're redoing or putting out a brand new
I think
edition, a
it's
whole new rule set. And
I
the
think
whole
it's the
nine,
fourth.
I think.
They already
Yep.
have the rules up on their website for everyone to read through. A couple early pictures make the game actually. I mean, it doesn't look like it's straight far from what it was, but I think they've redone the rules and they've streamlined it. That game that you don't like the models of, Rune Wars.
I don't know what you're talking about.
They
Not
have
even
expansion packs out.
a thing. Not even a thing. You know what? I'm glad that people like it because as people buy more, if the rule set is really as good as it is, I haven't laid hands on it, so I'm not trying to make comments about the game. But if they continue doing well, then hopefully they'll redo the sculpts. That's all I can hope.
I mean, they have the Death Cavalry out now.
These are just words you're throwing at me. If they look like they were made in the 90s, I'm not interested. This is the modern times. You should be able to find sculptors that sculpt really nice things. And you should be able to get molds done that make mold detail look good. They just didn't do it.
In the hobby world right now, it seems like you either make really good models or you make really good rules. I don't see a game that's too often tying both of them together.
Infinity?
Okay, never mind. But they're pewter.
This man in his smoking jacket.
What else? Actually, Fantasy Flight also has, you mentioned it, X-Wing has got the expansion.
Yep.
One of the notable expansions is Guns for Hire.
Yep.
That goes under the Scum and Villainy, so they've got a couple extra ships, so you got a couple more options in your pocket.
I think it's a Starfighter that comes out and has some cards. One of the unique things that they're doing to balance X-Wing that I'm finding, and most of you that have been playing it longer than I have know this, just kind of inherently, is their balancing system allows them to come out with the same ship type.
Mm-hmm.
Call it something new because they've done like this. The Guns for Hire has some new pilots in the same Starfighter, ship that was released before, but now it comes with an upgrade card that's like a title that makes it cost less. So you can take, I think 2 points of your squad cost off, or some case maybe 1 point. And so they balance it that way. So if based on its functionality in the game previously, it wasn't worth its points as it was costing, rather than reprint a bunch of cards, come out with an upgrade card that only fits that type of ship, have it reduce its points cost to make it in line with where you need it, and then people can pick and choose as they want. You can use that, you can add the card, things like that. So again, creative way of balancing a game when you have something that relies so heavily on printed materials like theirs does. The cards come with a ship. How do you offer people a mechanism to get new cards if you reprint them? You either then have people that they can print it out a PDF, at which point in time everybody then starts printing out the PDFs and don't buy the ships, right? Because the cards only come with the ships, and they need people to buy the ships to get the cards. That's their money-making routine with X-Wing, so you can't really have printable PDF in tournament. You just can't do it, because then everybody would print, in my opinion, we know how this works, everybody will print PDFs of the cards, you'll have one ship, you print out as many cards that came with that ship as you need to fit out all of your other ships, and so that doesn't work. If you need to have 4 TLTs in your list on your Y-Wing list, then you need to go buy the ships that give you 4 TLTs, 2 K-Wing packs or whatever. That's why K-Wings aren't available anywhere on the planet, because they're the only ship that comes with 2 TLTs, I think. And so, you go through that process of how do you run and balance a business, and then also be able to do the upgrades and the balancing changes that you need to do. If a card needs to be reprinted, that's a problem. So I think they've done a real good job with the rules and not having to. They can do the FAQs that say how a card reads, change to this, and have done that in a couple of cases. But for the most part, they just issue new cards that lay over that other one and take what its stock writing was and alter it by points value, or give it a card that will, give it an extra elite slot on it so that it can, compete more in the tournament scene if it is, feeling like it's completely useless. So good on them. And again, that's what gives me hope for things like Star Wars Legion, right? That they can continue to make good rule sets and find ways to balance, not like what we're seeing with other games right now, where it's like, here's an FAQ 2 days after we release the book. It's like, come on, guys.
True. I'm going to take a shot at you on this one, though. What I like best about it is that it still actually rewards the players who want to stay with the older ship. Look, I have this way of playing. I like this model. It might not be the most overpowered model in the game, but I like it.
Right.
And when the game evolves, you're like, well, now compared to all the other new ones, the points aren't worth it. It's like, look, it's just not viable because either it's too expensive or there's just better things for cheaper. This way, if you're just reducing the value, it's like, all right, now I can keep playing this unit. I still like this unit. I'll buy this card. I'll still keep playing this unit because it's one of the first ones out, or it's just my playstyle. And now I'm not priced out of the game because maybe I don't want to chase the new trend.
Well, no, true. And also from the standpoint of what you're talking about, it's a good point, because it means that it's not necessarily a nerf or a change to what you did yesterday if you don't want it to be, as opposed to, hey, we reprinted your card. Now what you were playing yesterday is totally different. And they have done that.
Yep.
I mean, they have come out with some deals where the way a ship used to work doesn't work that way. They changed the way the interpretation of the rules was through the FAQs and things, and now it just plays different. You don't have the choice. That nerf bat is going to come through every game. It's just the way it works, right? I mean, we know that you're going to have a favorite unit, and if it feels OP, chances are it probably is OP, and eventually if the developer is any good, they're going to change it and make it not OP, because the negative play experience for everybody else that you play in the game with that thing is too overwhelming. Developers, if they're doing their job, don't want any model to be placed on the table and have your opponent go, ugh,
But sometimes at least I can think of one company that does, because guess what? That model's going to sell. And it's going to keep selling.
Who are we speaking about?
No, I don't know.
GW?
Oh.
And even they nerf it, but it tends to run in longer cycles before they go through, because obviously they're additions. But the new edition of 8th is looking to be a little different. I mean, I know Robbie B gets a little pissed because we get FAQ 2 days after a release, right? So it's like, how do I even choose what I'm playing and how to build my list? Because a week later, I've had just enough time to build a list, and then a week later, you've yanked the rug out from under me, and my list is no good, and I just spent $500 on all my stuff, so... There's a balance somewhere in between,
It's
right?
bipolar, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Wait,
a
I'm
little
not
bipolar.
Here, I'm here.
Yeah.
There's
exactly.
micromanaging, and then there's just being absent, and we're in the middle.
Exactly. I agree. What else we got?
So, actually, I thought a real fun one that was going to come out is, you remember the Master of Orion computer game?
Yes. It's a
So-
4X Explore, Explode, Expand, whatever.
Exactly. Catalyst Games Lab is going to release a tabletop version. It's actually going to be based on the computer game, but it seems to have that deck building feel to it. So, and deck building seems to be one of the newer, I guess it's just everything's cyclical. We're seeing a lot of games come out and they're pushing the deck building again.
Mm-hmm. Well, what is it? Legend of the Five Rings is being released?
That's a new one. They're actually releasing the Scorpion Clan out.
That is also Fantasy Flight, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so.
Right?
Fantasy
Legend of the Five
Flight's-
Rings was a good game for card game, but it used to be treated more like a collectible, tradable card game. They were trying to compete in the Magic world, and so if you opened a pack and you didn't get cards you wanted, you were stuck with chaff. So you had to keep buying more and more packs. And I just think at that time, in the early 2000s, late 90s, or whatever it was when it hit, forgive me, I don't remember the exact year, but I was really intrigued by the concept and the clans and the political intrigue and the things that could happen in the card game. But there can only be so many card games where you feel like you got to go buy 15 packs to get the one card you need, and I feel like they failed miserably because of that. So
They're working on it. I mean, the Scorpion Clan is the shadows and the manipulation version.
Ninjars!
Exactly. They do a great job with the art, though. These cards are beautiful. I don't know exactly how collectible they are now at this point, but they're looking fantastic. Another fun thing I saw on Kickstarter is, I think it's QST, is basically trying to make a gaming subscription box. So it's just like, any type of box where you randomly order and it's a mystery box and it comes up, but it comes every month and you get a random collection or a random assortment of things that you don't know is coming. They're trying to get together a Kickstarter where it's going to be a bunch of board games. I think it said it's going to be probably, I don't think it's going to be within the year. I think the Kickstarter slated longer than that, but I could be wrong. I just thought it was a fantastic idea. Or at least interesting. I'd love to see, and I actually think it's a great opportunity for some of these smaller board games that don't have the advertising capabilities that some of the bigger ones do, to get their name out there, get their product out there. And if you don't go to a con, you might miss a couple of these board games that are floating around that tend to be small pockets and small fan groups.
Well, that's what we talk about in this industry being so hard is the marketing side, right? Because if you don't pick the right demographic for your Facebook ad, where else are you going to really advertise to people?
I mean, it's kind of interesting that now today, with how connected we are, marketing's difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, you have Twitter, you have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have, I don't know, there's got to be something else somewhere.
Well, you're talking about a subsection of subsections here, and we speak about this a lot on the channel, is that, as geeks, nerd, culture, whatever you want to talk about it, there's subsections within that, right? It's chic to be geek these days, it seems, but what part of geek is chic? You start talking tabletop war games, and these people that are, popular geeks, heads may explode, because they don't know what you're talking about. They're thinking more in terms of computers and video games and things like this, and so we are even a subsection of nerdiness that doesn't have an avenue to really talk about it. You're not going to find too many places where you can just go out in the world and see advertisements, right? Games Workshop stores in the malls failed miserably, and it's like, so the places where people go to consume, right? Amazon, yada, 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 yada. These just aren't the things that you're going to see pop up in front of your face. So the cons really are it. The lifeblood is stuff like Gen Con that's going on this weekend, ending today. That's why they get so many people there, because the people like you and I that are frothing at the mouth for new product and new ideas and cool stuff, you go to the con, you learn about it. But that's a hell of a trip, right? Not everybody can make it.
Somebody likes us.
You rely on all that feedback coming in. Thank you for the follow. Welcome. So, I'm excited though. I feel like the response at Gen Con this year has been huge. There's some sad stuff at Gen Con. I haven't felt like there's been some games that got any kind of response at all. I know they weren't doing demos or talking about really in visual sense Wrath of Kings at all at the Cool Mini or Not booth. I think with the advent of the new Song of Ice and Fire coming out, the Game of Thrones game that they're kickstarting right now, and how huge that's blowing up. Obviously, that's the apple of their eye, I think is the right way to put it. That's probably the bright shiny for Cool Mini or Not, so I think they don't have enough resources in their miniature world right now, as we talked about in our first episode. The kind of money where miniatures is going. Miniature as a sales category for Cool Mini or Not shrunk, but their overall sales grew. So we know that this line of kind of more board gamey stuff, but Ice and Fire is a totally different. It's kind of like Fantasy Flight's Star Wars Legion. You've got now this Game of Thrones coming out from Cool Mini or Not, but I feel like they just don't have either the manpower or the want to pay that much attention to too many different games. They placed a lot of emphasis on Dark Age this year with the new rule set, the 2017 new expanded rule set. Wrath of Kings has gotten a lot of really, really cool models this year. But it was sad to hear that at Gen Con they didn't really see much going on. There weren't demo tables set up for Wrath of Kings, from my understanding, none of that. So we'll see where Cool Mini or Not's going, and are we going to see some games from some of the bigger manufacturers kind of fall off the radar again, only to come back later? A lot of these companies are huge. You don't have thousands of employees, so you can't have a whole subsection, like here's our engineering division for Game X, and they just focus on Game X all the time, and here's the unit for Game Y. I feel like a lot of these developers are working on multiple games. You've got the same guy coming up with ideas, and that goes. He can't be doing rules for 3 games at once and have them all turn out good. So.
Well, that's where I think you get some problems and where some games end up being stagnant, because they're not actually touching base with their consumers. So they don't see how they want the game to evolve. They have this vision of where they want this game to go, but they don't necessarily adjust when they should adjust or how they should adjust, because they're stuck on their vision. And granted, I think it's great that the artists and the makers are pursuing their vision. But it's a shame when we lose some good games out of the system because, all right, enough people didn't like their vision, they wanted it tweaked, and they just didn't respond. And that's a real shame when you lose good rule sets or real good ideas, because guess what? They just didn't want to adapt.
Or they never made it out there. Again, it's just that, like you were saying with these small board games, is how do you get them in people's hands? Board games are a little bit different, though, because you can go into a retail store and you can have a guy that's willing to buy, 20 different new board games, because you only have to have 2 copies of each on the shelf. And so 20 new board games that got released at 2 copies a piece is 40 actual boxes you have to buy, and you have 20 opportunities of different properties to appeal to somebody. Somebody walks into your store, you've got 20 board games. You've got one that's Cthulhu Wars. You've got another one that's, some sort of Candy Rush kind of thing. You've got Exploding Cats. You've got this and that and this and that. So you've got 20 chances to excite somebody with something different, because not all those games are going to be the same. And for the same amount of money that you could bring in maybe half a line of a miniature game, you're not going to, in 40 boxes invested, get anywhere near enough miniatures to show anybody Infinity, Warhammer, Age of Sigmar, War Machine, any of these games we play. And if you did spend the money, you just have one game. one chance to grab that person and excite them, right? If you come in, maybe not, maybe per faction, but overall, I think it's one chance, right? Because if you look at War Machine and somebody at a store is really cool and excited and they tell you about the rules, but it just doesn't jive with the way you want to play games at all, then that's opportunity missed. Look at all that stock I brought in to miss that opportunity. Whereas if I brought in those 20 board games, right, I can talk to you as an employee of that store about 20 opportunities to see what you like. Oh, do you like stuff like this? Do you like Hungry Hungry Hippos? Do you like this? You know, do you like Trivial Pursuit? You know, and so now you can really get them jazzed, and they might buy one of your 40 boxes because there was 20 different things. Make sense?
True.
That's why miniatures is so hard, because as a stockist, you have to put so much money behind the idea of one game. Infinity is one idea. If somebody comes in and says, I don't really, even if they're a seasoned wargamer, they come in and they go, I don't like D20 games. I feel like there's just too much variance in the die rolls. I'm not a fan. Do you have anything that plays with a D6? For that one person, you missed the opportunity, but you bought 50, 100 boxes, 100 blisters to have Infinity represented well in your store so that all the factions are represented.
True.
Miniatures are hard, man. It is not an easy business. So I get, cool mini or not, here's a box, right? I can buy 1 box, 2 boxes of a game of Ice and Fire, stick them on the wall. I don't have to have any expansions for it at all. If you know Game of Thrones, right, you can have 2 factions battle it out for $90 to $100 probably, and that can sit right in. You bought 2 of those boxes along with the other 19 board games you brought in. It has a board game feel. And then you can start bringing in expansions as you need as people build a base and start playing. Whereas with Infinity, you can bring in Operation Ice Storm, right? You can do that. So, you know, you have that opportunity at that level. I think Corvus Belli's done well. With GW, I think that's why you start seeing them doing these kinds of games. GW's got the new, what's it called, Blight War?
I think they're just releasing the Blight War box set.
Right, Blight War got announced at Gen Con, and that's, which, on an aside, brings us, I think, our first female Stormcast Eternal.
It is?
I think it is.
Helmeted and unhelmeted.
Right, we get unhelmeted Stormcast Eternals, which we've seen. There's been a precedent for that already with, I think, the hunters with the bows or whatever. But now we got a female Stormcast, and I think she's the leader for the box set, so that's awesome to see.
And she's dual wielding axes.
And it has a game system. It has like a rotating dial a la X-Wing kind of game system that I'm not real sure about. I didn't pay attention to too much of the rules. But I think that's why GW is doing this, is so that you can introduce somebody into the world of a game, whether it's Age of Sigmar or whether it's 40K.
Hey, somebody likes us.
You know, hey, thank you for that follow. You know, whether it's something akin to Shadow War Armageddon / Necromunda Underhive. You know, you get these box sets where you get the opportunity to have a game that can sit. Not that you would market it up next to, you know, your all your Pathfinder RPG and all the other box games and Hungry Hungry Hippos, and then all of a sudden there's, you know, Shadow War Armageddon, but you could, right? And I think that helps the retail establishment sort of adopt and feel comfortable with miniatures again, because I know lots of guys that ran retail stores, either past or current, who have migrated away from miniature games because of the burn factor. Bring in too much. Get excited about a game, don't sell any, now you're stuck. All this stock on the shelves that moves nothing for one game, right? If the crowd played it, but then they messed the rules set up, a la, you know, 7th edition 40K, 3rd edition War Machine comes out, nobody's as excited about it as they hoped they would be, and now you got all this 3rd edition new stuff on the walls, nobody's buying it. What do you as a store owner do? You flounder and you find something that works, and a lot of people go towards Magic the Gathering, Pokemon cards, X-Wing, stuff where you know it's going to sell, right? It always sells off the shelf, right? It's always moving. It always turns stock. So, again, I think that Gen Con is a good litmus for this. It's why it is, you know, the largest tabletop gaming, but it's also why the largest percentage of it is board games, right? It's something that I think more people can find a way to have fun with, and I'm happy to see that miniatures are kind of evolving into that sense of treating themselves to a marketing standpoint, where there's not just 50 boxes and blisters you have to look at. There's a box set. So
That's something. I think it was that No Plan Painting makes a really good point, where they're basically saying that a lot of these miniature games or miniature-based war games are pretty much almost, they feel the same in gameplay. And I think there are some games that it really echoes where it's like, and I get that all the time when I read all the different rules for the games we're playing, is that I want to basically project the rule set that I had for one game, or at least the way we interpret the rules for one game, into another set. We started with Deep Wars. I was trying to basically interpret how this game was supposed to work And it doesn't always hold up, but
But now, so wait a minute. Is he saying that we have games that are too similar in their rules, and that's causing us a problem because now they seem like cookie cutter?
I think he said that with miniature games, yes, as opposed to board games, which can at least be very different, or different in feel at least. They might have the same mechanism, but different in theme, different in purpose. Because when you look at a lot of games, I mean, a lot of games share like a function like Catan. But
Yeah.
it's just a different.
Well, there's a million
mindset.
board games where you roll a die and you move a peg, X amount of squares on a board, but they all have different outcomes. Life, right? Monopoly, whatever it is, right? Everybody's moving around on a board, so that concept of how a board game works is generally easy to pick up. But then the actual depth and tactic, if you will, of playing the game is different, so I can see that. But I mean, I think that's the way miniatures are. I think that you move guys on a board and you roll a die, whatever size die it is, and so that's your principal kind of mechanism for making miniature games work, right? Whether you move them with a movement stick, or you move them with a ruler, or you move them on a grid, a hex-based map like BattleTech. I think that you have to have a fundamental understanding. How do little dudes move around a table and do things? And so you've got some form of movement scale that says they move this far, and you use a ruler or a stick or a grid and you move them that far. That's repetitive. You choose something to do and you roll a dice to see if you do it. That has to be repetitive, because I think at its fundamental layer, what else would you do?
True.
Right?
I could see how the learning curve for a miniature game, though, especially like a tabletop-based miniature game, can be aggravating. Some people don't visualize
Hey, somebody
tactics the
likes
same way
us.
as others.
Thank you for that follow.
So if you're stuck on like that upside of that learning curve, it's kind of like if you're playing like, I think it's Battlefield. The learning curve for Battlefield, that video game, is just a straight wall. Trying to learn how to fly a jet in that game, good luck. And I can see how some people who are not tactics-based or very visual creatures could have the same problem in multiple miniature games, whereas opposed to a board game, it's like, look, as long as I can roll a die.
Well, you're the perfect example. What did you think as we went up and started introducing you to Malifaux? What were your first thoughts as compared to other games that you had played? How did you approach it?
I don't know. I mean, I just listened to you. Like, you were telling me kind of how it worked and what to do. I wasn't looking at it as a board game like Monopoly or Life, though.
Right,
I was
you-
looking at it as something completely different.
Okay, yeah. And I figure that's kind of what you have to do, because it does look and feel different. It is kind of new.
Right.
So I feel like that's the way, but that's also the way it needs to be taught. And of course, to your point, if you walk into a store and somebody tries to teach you a game, but they are, they have 50 different rule sets they're trying to teach behind, then they can get muddied and you might lose the brilliance of the game. Maybe that's what they're speaking to in chat too, is that, it seems so muddied because they haven't really gotten a feel for it that showed the uniqueness of a particular rule set. And we'll get into more of that when we talk about Deep Wars, when we go through our final review, because I think it's a great example of exactly what we're talking about.
Well, and it might be different for me too, because the whole thing is new to me.
Right.
So they're not all blurring together, as I don't know what similarities it has to other games.
Well, and that's the beauty of not only, well, let's just be blunt, that's the beauty of having your interpretation of what's going on, because, Jen doesn't come from miniature wargaming, but the allure of it and the community and the things that we're doing here has gotten her pumped about it, and so being able to have a fresh face, that's going to be amazing as we go through Arena Rex, number one. So I think we'll get some really good feedback on what is good, but you won't be comparing it to what you've had that is excited you
Right.
about other games.
Exactly.
You'll just be
'Cause
saying, "Is
it's
it
all
fun?"
new. Yeah.
Right?
That's all I'm looking for.
And I feel like that's the key, right? How do we make these games fun for somebody that's never touched a die or a miniature in their life?
Because that's how you're going to get new people. If it's easy enough to understand and it's fun, it's engaging, it's the way I would want to spend my time, then I'll play it again.
Like the game Bob Ross. The Art of Chill game.
comes
I think we should get that.
Bob Ross, The Art of Chill.
This Gen Con just presented the Bob Ross board game. Ladies and gentlemen, Van Dyke Brown is back. I'm excited.
I think I would be good at that game because I'm pretty chill.
And when you think
Does
about
it come
that,
with a bunch of tubes of oil paint? Can
Yeah,
this be like the
you would get
dirtiest
cards.
game
Yeah,
on the planet?
exactly, and you can just paint on each other.
Oh my god!
And you can do poop smears on each other.
poop smear.
Happy little poop smears.
Happy little poop smears.
Exactly.
I don't know what they're talking about. I have no idea what he's talking about. Dead serious. No idea.
I mean, the fun part about a board game, though, is that it can be themed like that, and I can just package up and put away, and after I've had enough, and then when I need a little bit more nostalgia, I can pull it out again. I go into a minis game, I'm not going to spend $300-400 for a little nostalgia just to pack and put away. That's something I better be involved with for a long period of time.
Well, and I guess that's a good question. Is it like the new box set mentality of $90 for a box with two factions, Zombicide and Survivors, or Rage and Song of Ice and Fire, and all of these things that are being boxed as two armies, set of rules, go $90, $100. Is that something? Because I know that if you go buy like some of these special Star Wars Monopoly editions, those fucking
The Game
things
of
are
Thrones
expensive.
Game of Thrones Monopoly I looked at last year at Christmas time, and it was like $50 or something like that.
They can be like $50 to $100 for special edition Monopoly boxes. So I know people are spending that money, and I think that's really good that the industry has targeted that. I say it time and time and time again. I think it's the best thing to happen to miniatures in a long time. I think that the line you run is that if you do like GW does, and every box that comes out is a different rule set, but uses the miniatures that they then
Somebody
hope you
likes
go
us.
and use in their bigger game with different rules, that's a slippery slope, right? I feel like you really want to include a scaled down version of the rules you ultimately want people to play, because the time invested in that $100 box set has to equate to value when you expand it later. My opinion, but if I'm going to buy $100, two armies, set of rules, play it, just have it be a dumb, I don't mean it dumbed down for dumb people, but just dumbed down. Slice out a lot of the content, make the move, the shoot, the fight, the win, part of the rules in there. Then introduce them to upgrades, unit profiles that are different. Instead of this guy with a bow is just a guy with a bow, show the other guys that have bows and their points costs increase and they're better at shooting and they're this and they're that. Expand on the rule set for me, because you've already shown me something I like.
Like Underhive.
Yeah, like Underhive or something like, well, we don't know about Underhive. We assume it's just going to be 8th edition Necromunda. Who knows, right? But what I feel like GW's missing the boat on is that they come out with these games that, Burning of Prospero has its own rule set, its own movement, its own thing.
That's
and
a
then,
good game.
Okay,
really
it can be a
is.
great game, but it's not tied to 8th edition at all.
No.
Except the miniatures. So you happen to have bought a $100+, in that case, $160, I think.
If you paid full retail, yes.
It's like a $160 board game that has some really cool miniatures, not going to lie. But you throw away 90%, well, not 90, but you throw away at least half of that game, because you throw away the boards, the dice, the cards, all that nonsense that's in it, and just take the miniatures to another game later. And I think that's a mistake, because you see it constantly. People are just buying these games for the miniatures in them. And they're throwing in the garbage. I would love to find the garbage dump where they send all of the Burning of Prospero and Betrayal at Calth heavy crap out of the box, and all that stuff lives in a landfill someplace, because the amount of people that are actually playing that game I can count like on one hand, right?
But that's a GW customer standpoint, because they're just feeding into the bigger game, and they're actually finally doing the thing where they're seeing a deal. They're finally getting a deal from a company that has basically, price gouged them for a while.
Right.
And they're taking advantage of it.
Well, and GW doesn't want to set the precedent of actually calling it a deal.
Because God forbid.
Yeah, right? It's like...
Yeah. We didn't notice
Yeah.
that, oh, by the way, when gas prices went up, miniature prices went up, and they never came down.
Bah!
But...
Bah!
Anyway, the Underhive models also came out. We finally got a little bit of a scale for that. It looks like what, Heroic 28? I think it's
I think
Heroic
so.
28.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's like a heroic 28 scale or 28 millimeter scale. I feel like that's good.
And I mean, those are plastic, so they can be customizable. But there's some great detail in those models. That's going to be exciting. I'd actually like to see whether or not they found a way to blend it so Necromunda and Underhive could actually play together.
I feel like what we're going to see is the Necromunda rule set that has been a living rule set since 2nd edition, 3rd edition. I think 2nd edition.
Okay.
40K.
Yeah.
That's where the move and shoot and all that stuff came from. I feel like my cross fingers hope, is that they'll just take exactly what we're talking about, take 8th edition as a basis for how wounds and shooting and all of the base level mechanics work, and then just overlay the Necromunda feel on it, right? The gang stuff, the building your gang, the what happens when a dude gets shot. He can lose an eye and be -1 ballistic skill. He could get, bionic arm and be +1 strength, all sorts of crazy stuff. So if they do that, if they just hybridize the two, take the new rules from 8th edition, take the Necromunda flair and put it together, bam, it brings the question to bear, like, why did we press Shadow War Armageddon? Because that's just the old Necromunda rules. I have no freaking clue what they're thinking, but their business plan is their own. Maybe they had this stuff already made and just needed a way to get rid of it. I don't know, because it looks like this is what's happening here, and it goes back to my feeling that 8th edition was rushed, and people
Hey,
Call me a
somebody likes
conspiracy theorist here. Thank you so much. I feel like the 8th edition was a little rushed. I feel like the idea was there. There was a good competency behind it, but they felt like it was now or never. They had to release it. They were pushed a little far forward on it because things are just kind of not coherent. And I feel like Shadow War Armageddon was part of that. I feel like that was planned to be released, but then 8th edition got pushed up. Now they've got Shadow War Armageddon out there that doesn't fit in their grand plan. Now they got Necromunda. Obviously, the Necromunda models look great. They've been building those for a while. But maybe they were meant to be Shadow War Armageddon. And then instead, because of the change to 8, they had to just kind of wedge this Shadow War thing with Scouts and Orcs, which were obviously models that just don't sell, is why we put them in a box game. Horrible. As opposed to releasing Escher and Goliath and all that as Shadow War Armageddon and calling it Necromunda. There's some other thing happening there. There's no way a business is that freaking ridiculously
somebody
skewed
likes us.
to want to release these two games that are going to be basically the same thing in the kind of time frame that they've done it. So
Maybe. I mean, I think the big steal of out of that Shadow War Armageddon box was actually the terrain, and there's some beautiful terrain.
and the bulk of that's going to be in the new box.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Oh.
they've already said that the Shadow War Armageddon terrain is going to go in Underhive.
All right.
So again, it makes no sense to me, but that's GW. Whatever, they do silly things. They probably had already printed this thing. They needed to sell it, release it. Don't reprint it. Let's go to Necromunda. Everybody will forget in a year anyway. So we're stupid consumers. We'll forget in a year. We won't hold it against them.
What do you think about the rumor mill with GW talking to Disney?
GW talking to Disney about Disney possibly buying the brand.
Yeah, that's out in the rumor mills.
Wow.
I feel like that's not a thing.
Okay.
And the reason I'll say it's not a thing is because GW doesn't have an IP that, unless there's somebody at Disney who has a visionary love for GW property, grew up with Space Marines, loves it, like a person like you or I that's an executive at Disney right now, could have enough of a love for GW that they're pushing this through. I feel like that could be a thing, but it would have to be somebody that was trusted as a source to be hands-on and grow it, because the IP itself right now doesn't make enough money to be worth anything. Okay. The business makes a lot of money, but I don't know that that's enough with the rights for Star Wars going out and Fantasy Flight games and all of that stuff going and being big right now. I don't see a business corollary there. It doesn't mean they wouldn't. There's plenty of precedent out there for large businesses buying competing IPs so that they can own more of a slice of the pie within any given market. I understand that. Unless there's something out there that I'm not seeing. I know all the fanboys would love to see a Warhammer 40K movie. I know that, and maybe they're in talks about stuff like that, like gaining the IP for producing movies like they did with Marvel, and then eventually buying it. Who knows? In the terms of business, I know that it makes some sense, and then it makes no sense, because the money that's involved there, to me, I can't justify, because GW, while being a good company in our little niche, is not a good company compared to like worldwide market companies. I don't feel like it's a good investment for a business like Disney, but we'll see. It remains to be seen. I don't think the IP is good enough to be able to go and make a bunch of movies that make a bunch of money. I just don't see it. I don't think that it's not Star Wars. It's not Star Trek. It's not something that it's so gritty, and in order to do it right and to appeal to a broader market, they would have to debase it so much that the fan base now would flock away in droves. And I just don't see it being an IP that has that kind of allure,
No, you'd actually, if you were actually going to do a visual representation of it, it would be something that would have to really, when you think about the 40K universe, it would have to be something that goes over and above Game of Thrones.
Nobody smiles in the Grim Dark. It just doesn't happen, right? Except for the stretched faces on like Dark Eldar and Slaneshi.
I was going to say, Slaanesha's got a big grin.
And Slaneshi demons. Nobody smiles in the Grim Dark, and so while we love this IP and I love the grittiness of it, I don't find it being a very palatable thing for mass consumption.
No.
So, and I feel like Disney is all about mass consumption. How can they take an IP and make it available to everybody at such a level that it makes them bajillions of dollars?
Yeah.
So if they
Hoodscape-
saw something globally that we're missing...
Hoodscape said this whole Disney buying GW thing has been out there since 2012.
Yeah, it's been around forever.
Has it?
Yeah, it's been out there forever. And there's been memes out there of like Mickey Mouse staring down a Space Marine and things like that. So every time somebody wants a movie and it gets pumped in momentum, then I feel like we start hearing this stuff. But if you just look at it from a pure business standpoint, I think Disney, it would be a bad move. GW is not a company you would buy unless you were a fanboy with bajillions of limitless dollars. You won $390 million in the lotto and you just went and did a hostile takeover and bought all their stock on the stock exchange in London and just owned the company and then took it private again, don't trust me, I've had dreams of this, right? If we won the biggest lotto in the history of hundreds of millions of dollars, one of the first things I would think about is hostile takeover of GW and taking it private again, because you could make that company so much better as a private institution if it had the money behind it. Taking it public was in my opinion, like the best worst thing that's ever happened to GW, because it's allowed them to do a lot of neat stuff, but it's hamstrung them from doing all the stuff everybody wants them to do.
So,
By the way, nobody won the lottery last night, so we should buy a ticket.
There we go.
yeah. All right. So, just saying hypothetically, you win the lottery today. You hostile take over GW tomorrow. What Chaos God are you going to walk in dressed up as when you roam your hallways for the first time?
I think I'd go in as not a chaos god. I would go in as a commissar with pigtails, a la like that. The little girls in what's the movie I'm thinking? We just talked about it on stream. Sucker Punch.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, like schoolgirl outfit, commissar, hairy
Like
chest,
Harley Quinn.
tattoos, beard.
Harley Quinn ponytails.
Okay.
Yeah, and pigtails.
That's strong.
Yeah,
Okay. I'd say that's kind of Slaneshi, but
thigh high leather boots, platforms. I'd be like 7 feet tall.
you need to get out of my head.
I'm doing to him what he's doing to me with his damn smoking jacket on. Freak.
I need a dice roll to save that. Please.
Freak.
Please
The great
give me-
unclean. I would be kind of the great unclean one, says it. I agree. I agree. Good stuffs. Good stuffs. All right, let's get to the meat and potatoes of the show. We need to get down and dirty and do our discussion on Deep Wars. So let's pay a little bit of attention to chat here. Hello, everybody. As you know, on Sundays, we do a little bit more rambling here than normal, so I apologize if I'm not calling everybody's follows out by name. We love every single one of you. Thank you so much for joining us today and for the new follows. Subs and resubs, always appreciated. All the support that you guys give to the channel keeps us going and doing what we do. So thank you. Love your faces. Much appreciated.
Somebody likes
Mucho
us.
appreciado.
Mucho appreciado. Not
appreciado.
even words. Thank you again for the follows. Not even words. I just make this stuff up as I go. All right, so as you guys know, for the past couple of weeks, we've been discussing and playing Deep Wars, a game by Antimatter Games, and it has been a heck of an experience. We've enjoyed it, we've laughed, we've cried, we've gotten stressed, we've gotten very confused, as
Yeah.
anything that you learn for the first time, I think. But
You've gotten angry.
I did get angry.
You've gotten angry.
I did get angry at the rules, right? Because how do you want to start this? Because we could just delve right in, and I could just like the title says, gloves off, and I'm literally going to come in swinging. But I feel like with any good thing, what we need to do is discuss some of the finer points that we enjoy, and build this thing up before we start punching at the wall.
I think before we start up, I think we should talk about our hobby mea culpa with this, because there's a couple of things we miscued while we were playing and play testing. So
Yeah.
I think transparency requires it. One of the viewers, I think on our Facebook page, actually mentioned that Antimatter Games has updated game cards. So we were using a mix of the old game cards and the new game cards.
Okay, but wait. Yes, you're right, but I'm going to throw this one at you, and I'm going to make you take a die roll, maybe.
Ooh.
All right? Because, and this is one of the things that disgruntled me. We didn't just start this without looking at all this stuff. Yes, they have FAQs. They don't have FAQs. Let me renege on that. They do not have FAQs for the game that I could find anywhere on the internet. What they do have is updated cards. But the only thing the updated cards do is make it a little bit easier because they reprint the rules for each ability on the card rather than make you flip through 50 billion pages in the book. We have the book. The cards versus the book are not different. So the new cards, all they are is a little bit easier to read. But the rules are the same. Okay? So nothing would have changed. Because that was my fear when that got said is, oh my God, did I miss something in a PDF that I should have overlooked? But no, we printed out the PDF. We have it. Bam. PDF with the cards, but all the cards are here that are different from the normal ones is that much like the character cards that we had, the big ones, they just give you rule by rule. So if your weapon has, shock on it, it would say on the card, shock equals savage, inflicts 3 wounds when doubling the opponent's combat score. You used to have to go look for savage in the rule book when we were playing. So that wasted a lot of time. So these are good. No lie. All right. So I don't know if it's deserving of a roll. Right.
Bring it. See if you can take the roll.
Because so
Yeah,
if
what-
I lose, I take a wound.
Yeah.
Is that how it works?
Yeah,
All
why
right.
not? 4 up.
4 up.
Yeah, do you want top or bottom?
4 up. I'm gonna wound you on a 4 up.
All right.
That's what we're gonna go for. Oh. I roll a 1. Like, what's up with the ones? That's 3 ones in a row.
Hey, it's your computer.
Loaded dice.
Yeah, rigged.
Hashtag rigged.
Dice roll for being rigged.
Against me?
Yeah.
I just took a wound.
Take another one.
Oh my God. What's this one? 5 up.
No, I see 6.
I have to have a hit on a 6? Mother of God!
Rigged. Case in point. Slow fuse. Rigged.
How is it?
Why can I call it like that? Why can I call it like that?
Hashtag Mike C rigged. Touchy rigged. How does this even happen? I take 2 wounds and I'm the good guy here.
Ray Silver just called Uncle Touchy the Teflon Don.
All right, so do we want to break down the sections and how we're actually reviewing
I'm not
this
talking
game?
because I'm already down 2 health. I don't want to die this episode. we both skirted it last episode with like 2 health left each. Neither one of us died. But I'm off to a very bad start here.
Yeah, and if I get that helmet, you're in trouble.
Can you earn him back?
No!
Oh.
I don't think so.
Oh.
I think we've talked about it, but I think it would have to be
likes us.
something extraordinary before we
Okay.
could earn health back. Like you would have to say, honey, I love you so much
Honey,
that
I
I'm
love
going to
you
give you
so
a health
much
back.
that I'm going to give you a health back if you lose at the end.
So I have loss prevention insurance this stream, I think is what that is. Welcome to the stream, guys, for the new follows. All right. So good point, though. And one thing that we do need to kind of offer in full disclosure, as we go through these games on these 2-week features, if you're new to the channel, what we do here is that during the course of each week, on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we paint. We focus solely on the hobby of miniature wargaming. We teach different techniques on painting, building models, converting models, you name it, we deal with it. Sculpting from scratch. But all in league with particular game sets. And so here on Gloves Off on the Sundays, we pick 2 weeks and we pick a game. And Deep Wars by Any Matter Games has been the game the past 2 weeks. We went through and showed some neat painting techniques. We painted with inks, transparent inks, to get some really bright, vivid colors on our models. And then we played. So last weekend we played a game of Deep Wars, and we went into it. We want to make sure that we head into these games in a manner that is much like you would as a new consumer. We don't want to attack them as people that have been playing for months and months and months. So we don't give ourselves a lot of build-up. Complete transparency, we played our first game of Deep Wars the Thursday, which is our prep day before this stream. We played the Thursday before our Sunday game. We played a game. We discussed, it's a good thing because we need to, just for production value, not be sitting here trying to figure out how to move and measure movement. And that game went a lot differently than Sunday's game. There was still a lot of rule looking. There was still a lot of what the heck does this mean? But it was done in an environment where we could kind of look at it and take the time because we knew what we were doing it for. Behind the scenes here, we know, okay, we're prepping. It can take 5 hours to go through the rules and play 3 turns of a game. And we don't really care. We're having fun, drinking beers, discussing and cussing. It's good. When you get into, and I don't want to call it the pressure of real world gaming because here on stream, although it is kind of, but you can imagine like walking into a store and playing a game with somebody you didn't know. Let's say you go, maybe it's not a tournament, maybe it's just your local game store has Wednesday random game night and you go in and you play a game of Deep Wars.
Yeah.
You may be against somebody you don't know. You may be there with your best buddy, but you're under a little bit of a different situation, right? Because you're playing in an environment where maybe other people are watching, trying to learn. There can be other stress. Obviously, we're playing live for you guys. There's 100 people in chat that are asking questions and pounding stuff up, so it makes it a little bit more daunting, but that's a more real-world situation. And if the rules kind of break in those situations, I feel like that's the time you don't need them to break, right? It's one thing when you're prepping and you're learning, you're teaching and you're reading the rules and it takes 5 hours, fine. But when you go out and you roll the dice and you feel like you've got an understanding and then the rules still break, there's a little bit of a problem. And I feel like that's kind of what we hit with Deep Wars. It's a great game. Let's get started out there. I love the game as far as the miniatures and the backstory, the whole world that they've created. I think kudos to Any Matter. Great stuff there. I've been saying it's Jules Verne meets Cthulhu, right? Like Lovecraftian horror and Jules Verne in the 17th century, kind of weird. The Nautilus has weird technology, submarine. Nobody's ever seen this stuff. So there's some alien technology, some, I love anything that deals with what could possibly be under our own feet on the Earth, Journey to the Center of the Earth. These kind of books and stories were always real intriguing to me as a kid. The fact that, oh, there's dinosaurs in the middle of the Earth? Fantastic! I'd watch that movie every time it came on. It's a horrible movie, but it's great. This has that feel, right? So for me, at least, it has a story that I think I can get behind. I think a lot of people would enjoy it. It's weird. It's got crazy creatures and tentacle-faced dudes and, you know, basically pirates. The fortune hunters are basically pirates that are seeking their wealth under the sea. Those are the humans against all these alien creatures from under the sea. So as a basis for a game, I love it. I'm completely enamored with it. I would play it forever. The models are very good. The resins, the metals. I think you felt the same way. The models from a hobby standpoint.
Great job, especially with the mold lines, because I hate scraping mold lines. I sometimes will skip scraping mold lines.
Well, you're not a fan of metal models to begin with, and you had to mess with some metal models. So
most of my army was actually metal. Even the resin models, though, there weren't many. Was it mold slips?
Yeah, in resin and in metal both, you can have a slippage of the mold, and that's where you get that shelving as the mold, as a two-part mold basically spins or pressures. If it slips even just a hair, you get like along a leg where the seam would normally be that you just file. You actually get a cliff that is made there that when you file it down can eliminate detail altogether.
I've seen a bunch of those.
None on these.
Somebody likes
That's
us.
fantastic.
None on these.
The
Thank you for the
bases,
follow.
A lot of good detail, and I thought it was just enough detail. Like, they didn't go overboard, so you didn't have to go crazy trying to paint these things.
Yeah.
But there was enough detail where if you really wanted to put in the extra hobby effort, you could.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we in our tutorial, we did a lot of what I would call more quick painting with the translucent inks. If you're interested in seeing how that does, just go to the Twitch channel, look in the past videos over the past couple of weeks through August, and you'll see me teaching using inks out of the airbrush to get really, really bright, vivid colors on these guys, you know, and we did, you know, if I can grab one here that we can do, you know, we've got, you know, some really, really neat stuff. Like this is steel jaw placoderm or something like that, some ancient fish, you know, and so the details on the resins and stuff I think are really good. And like Mike says, if you want to go full bore, they give you the ability to do so because the detail is rich enough on the models. You could spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours popping stuff out. Or they're also just very good because the detail is also big enough that if you just want to get models in color so you can get them on the board and play, bam, they work really well there too. So I think they're great. I love the scale of them. I would say that it's kind of an Infinity-esque scale, kind of that 28 to 32 mil non-heroic. It's more true to life scale. If you can have, you know, huge mollusks with ray guns be true to life, but you know, you get my drift. Really great stuff. So that out of the way, we love the hobby. I think we're both probably going to give high marks on the hobby side of it. When you get into the rule set and the gameplay experience, I'm going to let you start.
Well, actually, I would take a shot at the hobby side of it.
Oh, really?
I would. So, and it's how they come is they're pre-posed. There's really no way to mess with the model. There's no converting it. And part of that's because of the rules, especially with that adjacent rule, where it's if part of the model is coming up and touching another model, it's considered adjacent.
Good point. Modeling for advantage would become a thing.
Can't do that. But my question is
I would give all my models 12-inch arms.
Huge. Size matters. But my thing is that especially where there's a lot in the rule book, there's a lot of effort in the rule book about making this one of these like Mordheim campaigns where you can upgrade and grow your army.
Yes.
Part of the fun in those campaigns to me is basically having a vision for a couple of characters, maybe magnetizing the arm, maybe chopping off a hand and then putting in a hammer. Doing these other customizable things with your army. So it's like you can tell a really cool story, or if somebody gets a wound a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell the really cool story about how your team or your group has evolved through this campaign that you can't do with some of these models because they're kind of just static. They're stuck in place.
Yeah, okay, that I'll give you. They would be very difficult to convert for the largest part because even the resin ones are done as not multi-part kits. A lot of times they're simple, two-part mold. There's nothing bad about that. They still have really great detail. There are weapon packs. We were unable to get any of the weapon packs in, so okay. I'm assuming that for the upgrades, they make sets where you have the ability to maybe put an extra spear across the guy's back or something. But yeah, I agree with you. If you were going to do the what you see is what you get kind of modeling in a campaign, it might be a little difficult. But I'm never one that really cares about that. The cards, as long as you've got the ability to lay it out nice and neat in front of you, I feel like that works. What do we got?
Matchstick Man says it's not the motion of the ocean.
Uh-oh. Snake says dice roll
dice
for
roll.
touching size matters. Pun joke. 3-up save. Incoming. Incoming. This is a 3-up. Oh, Uncle Touchy taking some damage.
Another one.
Taking some damage. He has to take another one?
No, we just rolled another one.
Oh.
Another
My eyes
the
are here.
one.
Why are you touching
My eyes up
your
here.
coat?
Because I'm touchy.
My eyes are up here.
Why? He caught me live on stream. Because he's rubbing himself. It's very disorienting here.
Alright, so we went over aesthetics. Rule set. With rules... God. I'm going straight up thumbs down. This game is a thumbs down for me on rules.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you
Somebody
two
likes
reasons.
us.
One is because that we had rules that
Thank you for that follow, by the way.
that was contradictory right out of the just reading a
Like
simple
page
reading.
1 of the combat
Exactly.
rules.
We're going back and forth, and also certain ideas were spread out. It's actually kind of like reading like a high school paper where the person didn't do the final review. So they have like one section that kind of relates to another section, but another paragraph was just off in left field. It's because like armor break was in a whole different section, but it was referenced immediately in close combat. And then we're trying to figure out how this mechanism works and when it's applied. And then some of like the little boxes where they're trying to do the demonstration don't fully break down how they're calculating their roll. And this is what led me to believe that this is not a skirmish game that's based around combat. It's more based around objectives, is because they really just, the system was not, it doesn't seem made, or it's not detailed enough to actually have a streamlined combat. It just, the way the conveyance was just didn't work for me. And I don't know why, because in one interpretation...
Well, you hit it on the head. The reason why is because the editors of the rule book they dropped the ball. I mean, let's be blunt. The rule book is horrible. Not horrible. Okay, for drama's sake, I like to use words horrible and abysmal and all of this because, but there I'm comparing it against other things that I know that work a lot better.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that every book has to have a glossary, but in the terms of miniature wargaming, where a lot of these terms are things that, like shock, is in other games, right? And so as a developer, you have to remember that not everything you have in your game is unique, right? So just because you write it on a page and you give it a definition in one section of the book doesn't mean I'm going to latch onto it and always remember it, because shock has a bunch of meanings to those of us that play miniature games. It can be like tank shock. It can be a morale check thing. It can be shock like electrocution shock. It can be like one of about 50 different games I could come off the top of my head with what the rule means. Give me a freaking glossary. Give me a way to find it in your book, because you know you're not unique. So put your non-unique words in the back of a book. Put your unique words in the back of the book for the races and all that stuff, and divide it up. Give me a glossary of terms so that it makes it easy as I'm fumbling through your rules, which I will as a new player. It's just what's going to happen. There are guys who just innately understand things and pick up a book and they just read through it. It's like, and they just get it and they go. That's fine. I'm not that guy. We have so many rule sets going on in our heads because of the games we talk about and get to goof around with here, that it's always going to be something that I'm relating and getting wrong with another game. Whether it's, we just played X-Wing and now I can't remember how to roll defense dice, on another game.
Somebody
So,
likes us.
thank you guys for the follows. So I think that first off, I'm in agreement. I think that the rule set, the editors dropped the ball. Nobody really went back and spent the time on this amazing book that they've got, because it's got good history in it, it's got good lore in it, it's got great faction descriptions, it's got great just overall world construction. It's great. They do a really good job with that. I feel immersed in it. I feel like I want to be part. It gives me names, maybe not of named characters I'll play in the game, but names in the historic sense of the world that have created these situations, why certain groups and factions are doing what they're doing, where they came from as far as people know. There's a lot of unknowns with regards to these underwater races. It makes me feel like it's an exploratory game, that I'm going out there, I'm trying to find cool stuff and treasure and bring it back, and I can create all of my own story in it. And as far as you want to go, you could run it like a dungeon master and create whole campaigns with your own
Somebody
narratives
likes us.
and just roll and go. You really could do that with this. Again, thank you for the follows, guys. So I'm a big fan of that. But then you get down to the nitty gritty and you break into a rule set of combat, and on the, like you said, like on the first page of combat rules, I contradict my main combat role outcome rules on page 1 of combat rules.
Yeah.
It's just wrong. They've got one section that says one thing, and literally right here on the same page, right? Like, here's the first section, and right here on column 2 is the next section, and they contradict each other 100% in what they're talking about. You can't do that, because that's like, I'm here to roll dice and kill things. And I literally murdered your entire army during our game based on one part of the rule set. Had we followed one part of the rule set, I literally rolled one die, brutally massacred the one guy I was fighting against, and everybody that had to roll a morale check on the board failed and ran off the board edge, and the game was over.
Up and gone.
Like, literally in turn 2, one die, 1d6, game over. And so we both looked at each other during the stream, and Mike was like, that just happened. And I go, that can't have just happened. I was like, there can't be a rule set that allows that to happen. You know, I would be even more mad if that were true. So we went back, and with help with the chat, we discovered where the error was, and it was really the secondary definition of the combat rules that we needed to be going with, and not that first one that I don't even understand why is in the book. And it wasn't a mistake on our part. I guarantee it. Right? I mean, we're going to try to get the developers on here and talk to them about it, and in an interview, if they'll have us after seeing this, and be back on their rules if they still want to talk to us. But I think overall that as we go through, those kind of fundamental issues with it, just right out of the gates made it a bad taste in our mouth. But once we got it down and it started working, then we started finding issues not with the editorial side of the game, but I think with just the general, call it the mathematics of playing the game,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So I think that, so let's make sure everybody's clear where we're at. There is a fundamental flaw in combat, but it's just in combat. Movement is fine. I don't feel like we had any problems with movement.
No.
I don't feel like we had any problems with stuff like determining cover, the kinds of things that offered cover. I feel like there's lots of opportunities to use the map to your advantage. I feel like using terrain in the game is a great thing because of those advantages and disadvantages. So like Infinity, it can create, more detailed and immersive sets, or you can remove a lot of terrain out just for fast, bloody combat.
You can.
Because of the interaction that it has. So
and we actually didn't use a lot of things. There's a big section in the book
Yeah.
that involves moving parts
Yep.
of the board,
Opening
breaking parts of the
doors.
board, and causing other terrain to happen.
Well, because that all falls into that kind of RPG sense of it, which we,
Yes.
it's tough for us to show that because you really need to think of it in terms of a campaign. But I want to make sure that I reiterate. I believe the opportunity for campaign play in this game is bar none some of the best I've seen because of the immersive world, because of stuff like that. They've gone real, but I think that the rule set comes from another game that was more like that. It was built for like more RPG stuff. And forgive me, my homework is bad. I don't ever remember it. Somebody in chat will mention what the game was. So I believe that's good. And so there is lots. The rule set is very, very deep for everything from, finding treasures, opening treasures, what the hell's in the treasure box, how many victory points you get for what's in the treasure box, equipping the weapon that's in the treasure box, moving the door to get to the treasure box, dragging rocks clear across the field to create movable terrain or to set stuff up, or all sorts of neat stuff that you can do. Having maps that are half in water, half out of water. At Gen Con, we saw a picture of one of the map boards that they had that literally had like Mayan-looking pyramids that were half immersed in water and half out. They painted them to look like that. So it was really, really neat. There are miniatures that are amphibious that can go in and out of water, some that can't. So you can see how you can create this whole narrative. So let's just get it right out there. Great job on that for creating a world where I feel like how you want to play the game, you can say yes. How do you want to play your miniature game? Do you want to do something fast and bloody? Do you want to do something long and drawn out with lots of RPG elements and lots of warband, growth and campaign narrative? Yes. I feel like it anywhere between the two. Fast and bloody, long and drawn out, anywhere in between that you like to play your miniature games. This game is one of the few that can say yes to everything. So thumbs up on that part of the rule set for me, at least. Mechanics of rules.
God, that was bad. There's certain things I won't touch, and there's rules like the mechanics of the rules were just clunky.
Yeah.
And it was you couldn't even get a handle on the math because of how strange it was. Like that D6 could be so cruel, and there just felt like there's certain situations where, and granted, there are certain situations in every game where it's like the wrong tool is not going to do it. But even when you pick the right tool, you should at least be able to have some assurance that you made the right decision, and it can go horrible for you.
And okay, so what we're going to try to do for you now is discuss this rule set. And again, if you're feeling lost, go back and watch last Sunday's VOD, skip through it and watch the rules as we play the game. We're not going to go over every single rule interaction that we ran into that we didn't like, but we will talk about some of them. And what we'll also try to do is offer up our idea of how to fix this. I don't ever like to just bitch about a problem. I like to come with a solution as well, right? And so in coming with a solution, I feel like the biggest problem that they have with this and the mechanics of the game is oversimplification. They've tried to make something simple and in turn have just completely missed the boat with how miniature games need to work.
Which is fairly difficult. Actually making something simple and concise is
Hardest
a
thing in the world to do.
very difficult topic.
It's much easier to write a rule set that says roll 1 billion dice. And then just, then the hard part is pick out all the 1s and 2s and this and that. A la 40K, I've got a squad of 20
somebody
guys that
likes
each
us.
fire 3 times, and I roll 60 dice and pick out 1s and 2s and re-roll those and da-da-da. And it's just time-consuming with throwing too many dice. Somewhere between that and where we are with Deep Wars, rolling 1d6 and then adding some compounding things that can change here and there and comparing them over here and all that.
And maybe add this, but only if.
Yeah, Antimatter Games, you've missed the boat. The 1d6 does not work because 1 die 6, no matter what the bonuses are, leads you to 2 outcomes. It becomes a homogenization of every unit on the table because that 1d6 has too much variance in it. Believe it or not, a 1d6 roll against a 1d6 roll does not offer, I guess it doesn't offer enough variance to build in the power levels that you want to see from unit to unit. So if I have a heavy-handed unit and I put him in my army list and I build my list because this is my scrapper, this is my heavy armored dude who can punch your face in, but he can't shoot, he moves slow, so he's balanced in theory.
Hey,
but if I get him
likes
into
us.
combat, he needs to feel like the big scrappy dude that I put into combat and built and paid the points to put in my list. At least for a turn, dude. I might weight him into 5 guys knowing that I'm about to sacrifice my biggest dude, but I'm going to take your biggest dude with me because I get bonuses on my offense and yada, yada, yada. With 1d6 against 1d6, there is not enough dice variance possible unless you overload me with bonuses, which then make it hard to balance the game. So when you take a 1d6 mechanic, and the way that you change your 1d6 roll is by giving me +1 for charge, +1 for death from above, +2 for my weapon, +1 for being large, +1 for being mounted, plus this, plus that, plus this, plus that. What you do is you find ways that you can unbalance a unit very quickly, like my leader was. My leader was +9 standing still in combat and nobody could touch him. He was just destroying everybody he came up against, like bloody death and morale rolls every time he waded into combat. That's one side of the spectrum that system creates is complete unbalance. Unless you get your unbalanced guy into combat with him, it's going to be hard to stand up against that guy if you're playing the rules the way they're written. But for small guys, it made your Combat 4 guy not much different than your Combat 2 guy. And I don't like that feel. I don't like the feel that I can take my guy that I spent a lot of points on and put him up against a little guy and have a risk of doing 1 wound and being stuck in combat kind of a thing. And I know that people would tell you, but that's really the way the game we wanted it to play. Well, there's better ways to do it, right? There's much better ways to do this. We've seen it in many, many games like Infinity. I always bring up Infinity when I want to talk about a good rule set because you could take the Infinity rule set and put any die size in the Infinity rule set and have it work. If you're not familiar with Infinity, when I want to do combat, I have a combat value attached to whatever weapon I'm using. So I might have a gun that shoots once, I might have a gun that shoots 3 times. What are you grinning about?
Official Ray Long, it just got awesome.
What did he do? +1 to be mounted. Yeah, all right, now we're talking. So you have a combat value much like you do in Deep Wars. In Deep Wars, the combat value is supposed to be the way it is an indication of how strong a unit is. If my combat value is 4, then it means that that's my base kind of addition to my die roll, right? So you can imagine a guy with a combat value of 2 is only adding +2 to whatever you roll on a d6.
Yeah.
Well, because it's only a d6, me adding 4 doesn't change the world. Because if I roll a 1, right, that other guy can still beat me on quite a bit of dice. He can tie or beat me on 30 to 50, 50% of his rolls still beat me at combat 2?
In math, yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So the math doesn't work to make your unit strong enough, and in miniature games, you want to feel like a unit you spent points on is worth his points. And when the dice variation can screw you so bad, like we saw it do many, many times in our game, I feel like that's wrong. Have your combat, and the way to fix this, very simple. Have your combat value be the amount of dice you roll. That's it.
Easy enough.
Stay with d6. If I'm combat 4, I roll 4 dice. If you're combat 3, you roll 3 dice. Now my ability to beat you went up exponentially versus what it was with 1 die versus 1 die, no matter what the bonuses were.
No.
Right? So now you change it. And then they say, well, but there's lots of games out there and we don't want to be like lots of other games. Well, sometimes you have to take the understanding that lots of other games do it because it's right and it works. You can't beat the math. The math, when you do it that way, allows units to feel like the units you paid for, as opposed to every chance that you run into combat, you could lose. Like, I like the fact that it's kind of like Infinity in that when I roll a die and you roll a die, if you beat me, your dude has just counterattacked and done a wound on me. So I do have a risk versus reward that I really like in these games. I don't like games where I can just charge into you, kill you off the board, you don't get to fight back, and then I just keep mowing you down, because those feel a little bit like I don't have a chance as the defender.
No.
This game gives me a chance as the defender,
Hey,
but your chance as the
somebody likes
defender
us.
needs to be reduced.
But what is it? That's my thing. Is like, what is my actual risk? And I guess the hard way to say it is that I can't visualize the weight of each. It's like, what's my risk? What's my reward? Well, I'm having a hard time actually seeing where like the reward could always be.
Well, then you're not guaranteed the reward is the thing. That's the whole art.
Or how to increase, how do I actually hedge my bets?
And that's the thing, right? And that's what we're talking about. How does your big dude that you spent the points on, how do you tactically move him and his support units around for the right moment to charge in and feel like, okay, I got everything I needed to get. The situation is perfect. I was a level up. I get my death from above pluses. I get my plus for charging or rushing. I get all of these bonuses, and I walk into a guy who's lower combat value or equal combat value, but standing still with no bonuses like that, and that guy beats you.
Yep. We had
Or ties you and has better armor than your armor break, and so nothing happens. And so now you've hung your ass out in the wind in the best possible situation that you have according to the rules to attack, and you have too many chances to fail. That's the problem right now. Whereas if you're rolling multiple dice, right, that changes dramatically. Even against 4 dice versus 4 dice gives you better opportunity with your bonuses to then beat what you were attacking.
It still feels good too, because rolling dice just feels good.
Right, think about it on the defense, right? On the defense, just rolling 1 die. If you at least had the opportunity to roll 3 dice against a guy that was attacking with 4, when you lose and get brutally beaten, I just think there's a mentality that goes along with it that, all right, at least I had an opportunity. 1 die against 1 die just makes it all feel anemic. Every time I rolled that die, I was just like, here's another 1, and my big dude's losing combat.
Every one hurts. Every single one, when you're rolling just 1 die, that one hurts a whole lot more.
Right.
My bigger qualm with it is, and I don't know if they've actually changed this or not, is we talked about the rules with activation.
Yep.
And if you did a quick activation, which we didn't do anywhere on the board ever, it was just you got to move.
In the book, it says you can only use quick activation for move. In the other rules that we have, what is this called? The gameplay summary that we sent out here, which is just a summary version of the rules in the book. The gameplay summary says get free activation for 1 action point, right? Or free activation for 1 action, or roll the dice for your activation. It doesn't say anything in there about what you can spend them on. So my thoughts are that maybe they've changed that to where you could fight. Right, and so if we missed that would have changed some stuff, because there was a lot of times where you tried to roll to activate, and that's the next thing we'll talk about that the game has got wrong, is the whole activation roll, and you feel like, well, that was just a total waste of time.
Well, if we actually played how the rulebook was written, where we're in a close combat, technically, as written in the rulebook,
You had to roll to fight back.
exactly, just to activate to attack you, I have to roll. I could fail that activation. It's like, well, that means if I just won, and that actually, and to me, close combat's always a real big thing, especially in smaller games, because that actually determines what I do with the rest of my guys around you.
So let's real quick, let's make sure that everybody kind of understands what it is that we're talking about here. With the Deep Wars game, if you weren't here for watching us play, Deep Wars is played with D6. All right, and for activation, whenever you go to actually do something with your models, you basically are set where you get 1 free activation. And in the book, the way the rule is written is that free activation can only be used for movement. All right, so that limits your opportunities to do anything with it. Right, so without rolling any dice and taking any risk, every model can move once. Right, but once you want to do something other than move, you want to fight, then you have to roll for activation to get any more activation rolls. And you can roll 2 dice if you want to try to do 2 things, or you can roll 3 dice if you want to try to do the maximum things that a model is capable of. And so I roll, and that's a prime example. I just rolled 3 1s, right? So that activation failed because no model, a 1 is always a failure. So this is a perfect timing and roll for this. I couldn't have planned it better. If I went to attack Mike's model, and I'm in base to base already, we fought last turn. I'm already there dug in. I can't fight back according to the rules unless I activate first. I roll to activate, and this just means not only do I not get to do anything, but I also forfeit my turn to Mike.
Yep.
And that could have been my best model in the game right there. And I didn't. If this was my first roll, none of my models get to do anything rules as written. Like if this is my first activation roll, not only does that model fail his quality check 3 times, right? Because if my quality is 3, I have to roll a 3 or better in order to do anything. But I just rolled 3 1s. I don't get a reroll, right? And so now that model does nothing this turn, and because he failed all of them, I have to give my turn to the next player, which means none of my models do anything.
Nope.
It's too freaking abusive. I'm going to use the term negative play experience again because that's all this creates is a negative play experience. When this happens to you, you feel like everything's out of your control, and now
somebody
everything you
likes
did
us.
tactically to set your board up correctly is all for naught. Because now I focused the turn back to you, and you could literally activate all your models, and even though I had everybody set up for my turn to do what I needed to do, none of them got to do any of it, and I just lose. Right? I could just lose.
And there are some game systems that do have that element. I think, was it AOS, Age of Sigmar? I think you roll off to see who's going to go first that next turn. But I
But
think
you
they
never
mitigated
get
other
to not
spots.
do anything.
No.
You always get your turn.
Yes.
So again, in combat, we've discussed what I think the fix for combat is to create the combat score and roll the amount of dice that your combat score is, right? Have combat scores be between 1 and 4. Or for a leader, a huge model, have it go up to 5 or something like that. But I don't think so. I think you could probably even do it 1 to 3, so that you're still not ever rolling any more than 3 dice. And combat 3 is the pinnacle, right? And then your variance is very big. Now a heavy model rolling 3 dice like that, and then another model. Where's your blue die? Give me one of your blues. And a model rolling 1 defense die. Now you have the opportunity to have a big model feel big and a small model feel as small as it probably really was in that combat, so that your tactics to keep your small models out of my big models' way makes sense. The way it is right now, it's my big model rolls 1 die against his small model, and if his small model had the right amount of bonuses, I just didn't even do anything to it. Even that, he could literally, with the right small model with the right bonuses, still stay alive. So this doesn't feel like a big model versus a small model, but this would, because this would say, okay, those go away, and I still get 2 hits, or however they decide to do the game, and now your 2 hits against your armor value in my weapon value, and if you've only got 2 wounds, now my big model just erased your small model off the field, and it works. It makes value for list building work when you do things like this. That's why it works in miniature games. That's why more miniature games use this kind of situation than not. It's just good. Antimatter games, get with the program, change your dice game.
Hey, somebody likes us.
Thank you so much for the follows. For the activation thing, though, right? With the rolling activation, every model has to do it. So if I have, again, I'm on fire with the horrible dice rolls today. So if my quality level on my model is 3, which is a good quality level on the game, right? Yes. So I roll for activation, I have to get a 3 or better. So I fail. I have literally, in all 3 of my rolls that I've rolled for activation so far, there's one.
There you go.
Now I passed them all. So now I would get my 3 activations. But in all those other rolls, I'm failing. Look at that. There's a failure and 2. So I get 2 activations, that one, and I don't get my 3rd one, but nothing bad happens. On those ones where I'm failing 2 of them, there's 2 activations and not a 3rd, right? There's 2 misses and 1 activation, and in this case, I get to activate once and pass my turn to the opponent. So you can see how this is a thing where I think the risk-reward, whereas in paper it sounds kind of cool, when we saw it in implementation, it was not cool at all.
It was rough.
We had like 3 back-to-back turns where I activated once, pass the turn to you, you roll and not get to activate at all, pass it to me, I'd roll, not activate at all, pass it to you. That's just bad gameplay. That's a bad rule set. Yeah. If there can be a spot in a game where there's even an iota of a chance that I don't get to do anything on my turn because of some roll I made, not that you made, not that you have the dead slon on the thing that gets another free turn that activates an old Warhammer Fantasy battle where he rolls enough 6s in a row that he gets another turn and you don't get one. That was something you did that you spent points for, and you got this real big model, and I sit over there and I go, oh my God, that's brutal, right? But this is die rolls that I'm making. I'm making these dice rolls and I'm losing because of my dice rolls and passing it to him. But then there's a chance he could do the same thing and pass it back to me. And then there's a chance I could do the same thing and pass it back to him. And for 3 or 4 turns, neither one of us do anything. Is that a game that makes sense? No. Get your head out of your butt. This is a rule set that needs to change.
Hey,
not you.
Somebody likes us.
Well, the other thing is that just to attack is an action by itself.
Yeah.
So that means that I can't just roll 2 dice and pray. I have to roll 3 because I need 2 actions. I need to be able to move, and then I need to be able to shoot.
Yeah, the charge action requiring 2 is really what the problem is.
Even move and shoot.
Yeah.
Because
well,
that
no, move and
range-
shoot. The step and shoot and their step and attack is their version of the 1 action attack move, but they really need to get rid of that nonsense and just call it charge. Because, and again, this is a situation where they're trying to create something unique that doesn't need to be created. Charge works in most games because it only requires 1 activation point, but it gives you your move and an attack. It sets up a benefit for the tactics of moving your guys into charge range, planning that perfectly, and being able to get, like moving and saying, if he moves to right there, I'm going to be able to charge him next turn, and if he does, you get rewarded. This game doesn't
Somebody
allow you
likes
to do
us.
that because it takes 2 actions to charge. You have to do the move action and the fight. I just flipped them off. The move action and the fight action, right? And so that it fails to give you a tactical kind of oomph that you would really need. And you could use that 1 activation without rolling your activation roll for a charge, which would change this game entirely because now I don't have to risk rolling bad dice and not getting. So if I roll this, I don't get enough actions to move and attack. I only get 1 action, so now that model's floundering. It doesn't even know what to do.
Unless you're within a base width.
Right.
That's the only way you get it.
So
It's-
again, I think it's just bad. It's bad, bad, bad. I think you can make it better. Like I said, I want to give some semblance of what we can do to make it better, not just bitch about it, right? Don't bring me problems, bring me solutions. So this is Jason bringing you guys solutions. I like the activation roll. I like the idea that every unit can choose how much it wants to do, but there's a risk, right? Because you're pushing them, right? In War
Hey,
Machine and
somebody
Horde, you
likes us.
you can push your War Beast, but it builds up the I forget the focus or whatever it is, and the more it has on it, the harder it is to offload, and you can only contain a certain amount. So if you're over your amount, then you can't do anything. So I feel like there's a good risk reward situation with game systems like this that kind of punish you if you try to do too much. I get it. I like that, but don't have it ever past the turn. Get rid of that. There's no need for me on my turn to ever be able to roll a die that screws me so badly that I don't even get to play my turn. That's a negative play experience. Get it out of your game. Nobody is going to like this game except complete flagellant, masochistic. I'm not going to add any more words to this because it's just going to get worse. Literally. Right? So if I roll 3 dice, okay, and I fail 2, my quality is 4. So I fail 2 of those. Then just have it in the rule that if you fail 2 or more of your quality checks, that model ends its activation right then and passes to the next model on my side.
And maybe something like, hey, you can't attack.
Right.
You could put another thing with that, where it's like, look,
You can make it as complicated as you want, but just make it to where if I fail 2 or more of my quality checks, right? So even if I fail all 3, I just don't get to activate that model. Move to the next model. Don't forfeit my turn. That's just bad juju. That's a good way to make certain that it will happen. That like in both of our games so far, pretty good litmus test. We've had multiple occasions in both games where both of us forfeited our turns back to back.
True. We are, but I will say we are both more aggressive players than maybe what the market that they're going for.
Okay, but to tell me that in my game, what you're really saying is that that prevents you from doing anything in your game because now we just want you to move 1 time.
That's
Bad play experience.
I'm not exactly sure how you're supposed to play this game in 3 turns.
No, you can't. Well, because we bounced back and forth by sacrificing our turns so much that we were up to like turn 20 by the end of the game.
Well, especially when we're doing the real measurements, where it's like if you go up a level, that's another medium stick, but you're also a medium stick away.
Hey,
I would
somebody
wipe
likes
that
us.
out because that just
Thank you
means-
guys for the follows.
especially when it's an action point to attack. And everything else they're saying makes sense. Hey, you can't turn underwater if you're moving. If you're up higher, you get to see over terrain, but people can see you because you're a spot in the light, so they get to shoot at you, but at like a -1, but they get a +1 to their range stick. All right, that makes sense. It doesn't make sense that, by the way, I have to run underneath you and then swim straight up if I'm going to charge you.
True, too.
Or I need to shoot at your feet and hope it'll refract straight up to hit you.
True, too.
That if you take that away, maybe the game moves faster.
The problem is that whenever you create a multi-level game, and I get the dilemma there, is that as soon as I have tiers of height, I either have to provide you with the base things to put your model on, and nobody wants their base if your model's swimming at level 3. Nobody wants your pretty model that you've spent all this time and money on standing 24 inches off the table getting knocked over and destroyed. So I get it. And measuring from a point is going to be hard, right? Because I hold my ruler like this and then you hold your ruler like this? No, they've done what they needed to do, so I don't fault them for that. Having it be a plus a
somebody
medium
likes us.
stick for each level up and your distance out makes it doable on the tabletop and gives you a cool story. I get why you hate it. There's not a better way to do it without all this janky, either build me a tower that I put my model on, now everything looks silly, and my models fall off and break, because I know I'm knocking models off towers all game long, I guarantee it. I'm not fat finger and knock your most highly prized painted model completely into next year and into a million pieces.
That's because you're a jerk.
Well, I didn't do it on purpose. So that's a tough one, because flyers and other games come with bases that you set up as being height, but you don't really ever measure to the base for modeling for advantage kind of purposes. You just count as flying, and they write rules for what it means to be flying. Here, because those depth levels have value and meaning in the game, I think they have to do it the way they're doing it. Unfortunately, because I'm with you. I agree 100%, but I just think that, fix the rules, give me the amount of dice that my combat value is, and let me roll d6s against the defense value, you don't even have to change the cards, just have the combat value for the other opponent, only give him a certain amount of dice to be fine. Activations, just change it to where you're never passing your turn, even if you fail all of your activations like I'm prone to do, and I roll, 3 ones, which are automatic failures. That model just doesn't get an activation, but other models can now activate to support that model, so it doesn't feel like I just nixed myself, because that happened to me more times than I can count on the first roll of my turn, where I was just trying to get a guy into combat to save another guy and lost. So, and because now luckily I didn't feel like I took it in the rear too many times for doing that, because you'd roll poorly on your turn too. But neither one of us felt good about it. I mean, there's just no way to feel good about forfeiting your turn and then watching your opponent forfeit his turn back to you. It's like, why did we even do this?
Yeah.
Neither one of those turns should have even been in the books. Like, you didn't do anything.
Nope, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what flagellum is, but...
Anyway, I think that those, and literally, is that it? I mean, that's literally the two things that we've talked about the most in our private conversations about the game.
We beat the hell out of those two topics.
But that's the only two that really are. 2 easy fixes to make a game that is really, 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 really good at its core fundamental. Great. I mean, I would sit here and find a way to give everybody a starter set for this game if they fix these 2 rules. Because this game, for just its breadth of the world, the fiction behind it that you can not only create for yourself, but that they've delivered to you, fan-freaking-tastic. Fan-freaking-tastic. Kudos to Antimatter Games for coming up with such a rich living world. They are developing new Kickstarters with cool new stuff like big, huge, great white sharks. They've got the Nereids, which are the mer people, the mermaids and the mermen, right?
Merman.
Mermans.
Merman.
Mermens. Mer people. So they've got great new factions coming in. They're building the story. They are allowing you to create this narrative that's growing along with really cool models and hobby stuff. And I really feel like they've got a winner on their hands. Fix these 2 rules.
Okay. So, marketing, accessibility, price point.
Not available at all. Thumbs down on the marketing. They're trying with their Kickstarter, but there's not a whole lot to talk about here. It's almost unavailable everywhere. I don't know. You guys in chat, let us know. Let us know in the comments down below if you've got places where you can buy it. On the internet, you can buy it through their store.
Yep.
And that's kind of one of the only places. I know that they've just recently, if you look on where to buy, it shows a U.S. distributor is Golden Distribution. They've lost Golden Distribution. I don't know that they even know it yet, but Golden Distribution doesn't carry their product anymore. We were very lucky because Golden Distributor is one of our distributors, and we were able to get the product prior to doing this release. But if you guys ask me right now to get you some, I can't even order it. There's literally only like 7 or 8 models in stock at our distributor now.
Raylon can't.
And we bought their last stock out. So
to actually prove the point, this model right here, I had to go on eBay and find this because I had somebody who wanted to paint their own version of that. And I had to pay, I think I had to pay double what it said on the website just to get it off eBay.
tough to find. So that's a big hindrance, and that goes back to what we said earlier. You know, a lot of really cool games are tough to find. I don't feel like this one's tough to find because anybody has a thought about their game. I think it's tough to find because it's not available for stores to even get into.
And the weird part is that a couple of their models look like they're in their second edition. I know the
they are.
Deep Sea Siren, they've got a different model for now.
Yep.
It looks fantastic.
Yep, they've moved from some metal to resins.
Yep.
You know, they're doing a lot of really cool stuff on the hobby side. They're very active behind the scenes. They're a small business. But they're very active to make this game great. And so I'm hoping that maybe, you know, I'm hoping some of our input can work because I really want the rule set to first get fixed because the models and stuff are great. But availability really tough to get. Really, and that's going to be a hindrance for them because if you can't go to your local store with 2 starter kits, they don't make a 2-player starter box that I'm aware of. That's not a thing that they've done yet. So you have to buy 2 individual starter boxes for factions that you like. If you don't have the ability to do that easily, then you can't even have a real proactive person go into their local hobby store and pitch a game.
No, actually, what we were talking about is I think the new starter box is $49.99. Originally, the Dark Mariner starter box was I think $60. So they have actually dropped down in the starter box.
Yeah, I think they're either
prices.
$45 or $50 right now for the starter boxes, which is not bad. I mean, you can get into 2 starters and play a game.
And I think we got 4 models in this starter pack.
4 boxes. Yeah, 4 models in each starter pack.
So
I think
that was yeah. Absolutely. That I thought it was a great start.
And the models you get in it are great. They're not, you don't feel like some games when you buy the starter box, you feel like those aren't the models I really want to play. These starter boxes are good. These are the models you want to play and you'll keep using them. It's not, there's nothing anemic about them. The models are great. They look great. You could then just add bigger stuff, like your heavy units and things like that to it. But I don't feel like, because of the way the game plays right now, that's even a necessity. Just buy a starter box. But if you can't find the starter box, like right now we could take all the models that we have here that we painted up, take our mat, take all of our terrain, and go to our local gaming store and set up a game and play and get people really energized. If we just house ruled our stuff that we wanted to do here, we wouldn't even have to change much. We could get people energized about this game, and everybody would leave and be completely distraught because they can't find the models to buy anywhere.
Yeah, and you lost the opportunity because guess what?
And then you lose because they're on to the next bright shiny, right?
Why not? There's Bob Ross.
Yeah, there's a Bob Ross game. So this is the dilemma that all small studios run up against, and we are hoping that we can start driving some momentum to helping them out. I mean, I would, for games like this, I wouldn't be opposed to carrying the starter boxes in the store, but I can't get them to carry them.
No?
So hopefully we can work with Antimatter Games, and hopefully we can get some starter boxes in here if you guys are interested in doing it and get them into your hands, because it is a game worth playing. I think, for me at least, thumbs up on the hobby. For me, a tentative thumbs down on the rules with a good possibility for a thumbs up. It's a real easy switch for me. So if there was such thing as a thumbs sideways, I'd give it a thumbs sideways right now, because the fix for the rules is so easy that it could be a heavy thumbs up because the game would play completely different with those 2 easy fixes. And then on the marketing, it's a thumbs down, but only because you can't find it. So I think, again, what's our overall?
I mean, with the aesthetics like we talked about, I'm a thumbs up. I'm a thumbs up on that. I'm down on the rule set.
Yep.
Because this is just not a game I can visually get into yet. My mind just can't wrap around. I can't get lost in the game yet.
If you fix those 2 things, how close are you?
I think it flows better.
All right, cool.
It flows better, and then I can really start talking about what's going to happen. I can get pumped about my guys. Even my big close combat guy, I couldn't get pumped about him. And that's, with a lot
That's
of
because he got
games,
swallowed by my fish, though.
in 3 seconds. That was the hard part. It's like, because I feel like as a gamer, as a miniature gamer, whether or not you want to bring a competitive list or something like that, that's up to you.
Just have fun with
But
it.
yeah, you always make a list you're going to have fun with, guaranteed. Like that next 2 hours, you're not going to waste because this does what I want to do.
Very rarely do people build lists that they want to just take and die with. You don't just put, 5 small point dudes to go up unless you're just trolling. Nobody does that. Everybody puts together a list that at least in their head feels like is viable for whatever viable means to you. You're going to go out and I'm going to have fun because I like these units. Play with them. If they die, they die. If they win, they win. Fantastic.
But I want to punch you one time in the face and have it feel good.
And the 1d6 mechanic doesn't allow that to happen.
You usually feel like you just barely escaped.
Yeah.
And that's, maybe they want that feel, maybe they don't. I don't know.
I feel like even playing the objective game with it, going and grabbing treasure, because if what you're trying to do is tell me that the game is really less about combat and more about getting the objectives and getting out alive, I feel like, well, you can't tell me that because my opponent, if he sees me getting the treasures, is going to come kill me to take the treasure. And if every one of my units has the ability to be lackluster in combat because of this system, even my big dudes, I feel like tactics are kind of out the door.
Well, I mean, the non-PC version of what I feel like is, it feels like just one big cripple fight.
Yeah, kind of.
That's really what it feels to me. I know you're not supposed to say that, but that's what it was. Just like everything's a struggle for no reason.
No, I feel like that's right, though. It is. Every model is crippled by the system. It's the cards are not. I think the stats on the cards make sense. I think that a lot of the weapon stuff makes sense. I think it's very lackluster because of that D6 mechanic.
Yeah. Marketing, like you said, I can't really say much about it. I had to go on eBay to find the model because I couldn't get it direct on site. Mm-hmm. That's a negative, and also I can't really find much about it. Maybe if. Now, after you told me about it, because you saw it through the distributor, I think that's how we got the main information on it. Then I could go on YouTube and see a couple of battle videos, kind of, but I don't rely too much on those because I don't think we should do that for this, because I don't want to bring in tactics that I don't see going through the book. I gotta give that a thumbs down. Overall, I'm neutral on the game because there is that wild card where I know got somebody hyped about a model or a miniature game that normally thinks it's nerdy and it's not fun, but it activated their part of the imagination. I think it's got potential to be a gateway game for some people, and that holds a lot of water because all you need is to open someone's mind a little bit, and then God knows what can happen.
Yep.
So that is kind of a redeeming factor. I still, the game as far as a gamer goes, I'm giving it a thumbs down overall at the moment.
Yeah, I think if we had to give it on our scale of 1 to 5, I think right now it's a 2, which would be a thumbs down. But I think that with a couple of very easy changes, this is a 4 right out of the gates.
Easily.
It could very, very easily be. Unlike some games that we see where it's like, yeah, it plays, it's fun, but I don't feel any involvement in it. I don't feel any attachment to the storyline. I don't feel any attachment to the world. It's just blah. There's so many of those games out there that when you give them a 2 or 3 or a thumbs down or whatever you want to call it, you're not going to come back to them.
No.
This is a game I'm glad we painted the miniatures. This is a game that if we play, we house rule our own combat and activation rules in, and it'll be great. And that puts it up to a 4. Its playability is fantastic. Its replayability is fantastic because of the ability to do local campaigns. You can do slow grow leagues with this and have it be tremendous amounts of fun. It has the right core fundamentals to be an amazing game. It needs that little bit of push. It needs to be available, which I know is the hardest thing for a small business. And it needs to have a little bit of rules change. So the caveat on this one is one of the few games that I think we give a low score to right out of the gates, but could very easily be one of the higher scores.
Yeah. And I would say I'm a fickle person. If I have a bad experience with a game, I'm not going to do it again, probably.
Yeah.
This is a game that I don't want to play again right now. If you told me that they changed some things, I'd roll dice with you again.
Yeah.
That is actually how I feel about it.
Will you wear that costume?
I mean, if you roll the right dice, I'll take it off.
Hey, that's not a costume.
Oh! So, why do I do this to myself? Why do I do this to myself?
This is
How
not
do I
a
do
costume. This is a way of life.
Exactly. See,
Why do
Jen
I do this to
understands.
myself?
Jen's the one that told me to take my shirt off.
I did.
Myrtle says, why not use just a level token on the level thing? Well, they already have level tokens, technically. So all that's already in the game. What Mike was talking about with regards, because as an underwater game, you can swim at different levels. And what he was talking about is that there's already level indicators. Level 1, level 2, level 3 is what you get. Level 0 is floor, ground floor. What Mike is talking about is measuring from a model that is on level 0 on the seafloor to a model that's at level 1. The way the rules are written is that you measure how far it is out along the seafloor, and then you add a medium stick up to the model to give it that level. So it's non-geometric, right? It's taking the wrong measurement, whereas you would normally take the hypotenuse of the triangle to measure from the seafloor to the model that's up above. You're actually taking both adding the other 2 legs to it, which is more distance than it really is, which is what's got him bummed, because that means more actions or further out of range that you are to it than you technically really would. You might be able to take a long measuring stick and actually touch from the ground floor to level 1, but it's really 2 medium sticks. It's a medium this way and a medium this way, which makes it out of range, let's say. So, yeah, but that's the only way they can really do it, and I understand. It just makes your tactics a little bit, you have to hang your ass out there a little bit more, because in order to get to range on things that are up a level, either you spend more of your action points to also get to that level, which I think is the goal, chase things by swimming up to their level, or you got to put yourself in danger by moving in closer underneath it, right? And but I like it. I mean, it's good stuff. I feel like once you wrap your head around it, it makes sense. It just changes your tactics from other games, like we were talking about earlier. In other games, well, I can see it, and it's within 12 inches. My gun shoots 12 inches. I'm shooting. Well, no, it's not, because it's actually 12 inches out this way, and then an additional 4 inches up to it. So it's actually 16 inches. Now it's a long shot. Now there's bonuses that don't make sense to me, yada, yada, yada. And your initial reaction is, oh, grumble, grumble, grumble. But once you adopt it and you understand, then I think you start using level to your advantage. You know, like in our game, I swam everybody up pretty much to level 1 because of that inability to let you get that charge off. You had to first come up to my level,
get up.
and then have enough action points left, so it forces everybody to roll more action dice and things like that. But I think
when I'm still shooting at you, though, you're rolling a defense die to just basically knock it away, even though it's not one of the characteristics you have. Which kind of awkward.
Tough.
Kind of awkward.
Yeah, tough. So I know we played some of the rules wrong. I know that if you go back and you watch the VOD, if you're familiar with Deep Wars, you'll have some commentary there. That's fine. I feel like we were understanding the rules that we got wrong. I feel like our judgment here is being pretty fair with regards to the understanding of how we should have played it, what it would have done dynamically to the game. This isn't our first rodeo. We've played a bajillion war games, taking a lot of our experiences with what is fun in our eyes. I think it's good that both Mike and I have a different view of what fun for games is to some extent, but both of us, I think, came out very similar on this one, and I think that's a very strong showing because it's the game. It'd be one thing if you said, I love the game, it's freaking great, and I was over here saying what I'm saying, then there'd be a real problem, but I think both of us feel the same way. It's lackluster right now, but only for the fault of two rule interactions
And
that could very easily be changed, and the ability to get it in the stores.
And I think this gaming company is at Gen Con.
Yeah, Animators there with their whole Deep Madness and the whole nine. That's why I'm saying they're being very proactive to find ways to get it out there. I think right now, because it's small, because there are a lot of games available, retailers are having a little bit of reluctance bringing in something like that unless there's a local person pumping it up.
Yeah.
But in order for a local, they're in that catch-22. The local person's got to be able to get the product, So I think Deep Wars, maybe if they put out a little bit of ground traffic, I don't know if they have
some Outriders.
If they have like Outrider type program, I hate to use that word, but if they have a program like that for people that can go out and bolster their game and give them free products so they can take a quote-unquote two-player starter set, and a cool table mat, like our Mat by Mars mat that we use here, and just roll it up, take it in your car, go play the game. Because I could take this and do demos at the local stores. I know 3 stores right away that would have me in to do demos of it to show it off if they felt like it was going to gain some attention. And I could walk in right now and sell this game to store owners based on just its principle and the backstory and letting them read the rule book because it's great. When you play it, if you play it rules as written, it's not so great right now. We need to house rule some stuff, and nobody wants to buy into a game that you got to house rule. They want to make sure the company's going in the direction that the rules stand up to the people's expectations and it sells. So just a couple of changes. This game's a 4, really solid. Kudos to Antimatter Games as a small business doing a lot of really good stuff. Their Kickstarters have been very successful, so there are people out there that are paying attention and liking the game. And I hope that there's a way that some of these fixes can either be, whether there are fixes that we just said, or they just kind of migrate the game into a different level of play on their own to get everybody to where there's more people interested in it. I think that it could be great. So, awesome stuff. Anything you want to add?
Well, Snot Rash says you actually owe me a roll for insulting my jacket.
Who insulted your jacket?
I think that's another roll for lying.
I never said anything bad about the jacket.
You want to touch the jacket?
I do not want to touch the jacket.
That's another roll.
No! 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 A roll for insulting touchy sweet jacket. All right, I'll give you a roll on a 6. A 6 up. That's all. That's all you get. 6 up. I live. Yes, I live. And Uncle Touchy takes a damage for being Uncle Touchy. So there you go. For wearing the jacket in the first place and forcing me to have evil thoughts about the jacket and taking rolls, Uncle Touchy just takes a damage right off the top. That's
He does, Kev-Rob. He does want to touch the jacket.
I don't want to do. I do, but I don't. I will,
See?
but I won't. So
We all heard it.
It's not going to happen. It will definitely happen, but only after the cameras turn off, but never. All right, so if you can follow that, then you'll know exactly where I'm coming from or not at all. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Perfect sense.
All right, guys. To finish up for today, we do have a little thing. We introduced it, or we talked about it in episode 1, which is called our Hobby Love section, and we want to bring that to you right now. So for Hobby Love, this is the first Hobby Love that we will be doing here on this stream, and what Hobby Love is a way for us to show some really cool appreciation and just give kudos back to the community that posts your works in our community gallery over on slowfusegaming.com. During our normal live streams during the week, both on my channel, Kenny's channel, Next Level Painting, and even on Rob's channel at Spiky Bits TV, you have the opportunity to take your own journey through the hobby and post pictures of what you've been working on live and get feedback from us as the painters live on stream. You can just be there to show us the awesome stuff you've done, or if you have questions and comments about things that you're working on that you might be struggling with a little bit, always a great way to post a picture to get some ideas, not only from the painter, myself, Kenny, Rob, but from the community at large. Our community is fantastic. It's built around a lot of people who enjoy the hobby, both for playing the games, hobbying, converting, painting, the whole nine, and there's always a lot of real positive reinforcement coming back from the community. It's a great place to come and get good feedback on what you're working on. These pictures are by no means what I would call the best or the worst of the bunch. These are pictures that as I glide through the weeks of community interaction that I pick up because there are people that I've watched on my channel grow from just beginning painting to where they are now, or people that have just blasted us with something that's phenomenal. You'll see it all over the place. If you put pictures up there and you don't see your picture on Hobby Love, don't ever feel bad. I love every single picture that's up there. Obviously, we don't have time to go through, like, I think right now there's 312 pictures. So I'm picking out just a couple to show you and to give some nods to the community. So let's start with this one. And this is a Nurgle Blight King from one of our viewers, Deganozil. And what I pulled this one out for is to use as a reference point because there's so much going on right now with Death Guard, Nurgle. Obviously, they're the big component in the Dark Imperium box set. As we go into 8th edition, that's been the focus in Chaos. We're about to see their Primarch come back. All sorts of real neat releases coming out for Nurgle. And what Deganozil has done here is take a really, really cool twist and show that purple isn't just for Slaanesh anymore, right? Normally with Death Guard, one of the biggest problems that you have is getting all of your green decaying flesh with browns and oranges and yellows and whatever nasty nurgly colors you put in there to kind of stand apart enough from the armor. There's a lot of Death Guard armies out there that are painted very well, but when they're all out on the table, start to take a very monotone kind of look to them, right? Because the color palette can get lost. Armor that's done in kind of rusty greens and browns and then death flesh tend to be in that same color palette. So to try to extend that, a lot of times on stream we talk about glazing in new colors on the skin, purples, a little bit of reds, so that you've got the dead flesh, but it stands apart because on the armors you're not going to use those same colors. So neat ways to build in contrast through hue. Deganozil's taken it to the next level and has done beautifully with it. Just the purple skin alone guarantees me I know what armor is on this guy, and I know what flesh is on this guy. So great work from Deganozil. Really, really impressed with his use of color on here, and I think this is something that would stand out as a way to teach you that with your Death Guard you can go into colors you might not have thought. You could do this same skin in oranges. You could do it in more maroons. You could pick blues. You could do really, really cool stuff and still get that alien decayed feel, right? And have it contrast with the armor really, really well. So great work out there on Deganozil's part. Here we have Viking Teabagger, another one. It's always funny to say his name. People hearing it for the first time. Best name on Twitch almost. Viking has come a long way. Viking came into our channel and has been really, really active in asking questions on how to get his painting skills to the next level. And one of the things that he bit into really hard initially was doing non-metallic metals. He came in and was asking, hey, how do I do shiny chrome? Hey, how do I do gold? Hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? And really took to it like a fish in water. I use a lot of techniques live on stream with non-metallics. I'll take time to draw out on our little 5x7 cards with pencil how light and value play around. And so we took Viking, and literally Viking will take something that we tell him, and by the time I'm at the end of the stream, we'll have painted whatever it was he was asking about and throw it up there. And it's like, why do you even ask how to do this? He's doing great. So this is just another one that's a nod to our viewers and being able to take what they learn and convert it into some amazing work. If you look at the golds on the shoulder plate there and the sword, he's really, really getting those dark transitions done so that the metallics start to pop. The brighter you go, the darker you go, the more metallic it's going to look, shiny versus not shiny. Great work. Really good nod out there to Viking Teabagger, taking a lot of what he's seen on the stream and just his efforts just double and triple every time he puts paint on a model. Good stuff. This one, absolutely amazing. Batman Fan 88 coming in with one of the grossest and coolest bases that I've seen in a long time. His use of water effects and resins here is phenomenal. Getting the depth with that blotchy yellowy green in the green water gives it such an otherworldly feel. I love this. I'm not sure that I can go through all the reasons why I love it. I just love this. The earth looks good, the dead grass looks good, and then you've got this eye-popping green sludge that he's just gone the extra mile to get the depth to make it look like I am definitely not putting my feet in whatever this is. It's just not going to happen, right? The story that's told on diorama bases sometimes is it can get lost with the model. Sometimes it can go overboard and tell too much. This one I feel like whatever model he puts on here, he's already set it up for me. There's going to be some amazing toxicity happening on this model base. Good stuff. I love it. And here we got RB Shot. This one not so much for any Hobby Love other than the fact that he sent us these bases, not these in the photo, but RB Shot is doing some really cool resin bases for Wild West Exodus, which is really, I guess, relevant right now because we got Wild West Exodus coming up after Arena Rex. And we have these bases right here. He was kind enough to send a lot of these resins. And I got to tell you, he is doing an amazing job. These Wild West Exodus bases, as you know, if you're familiar with the game, have kind of a, what would you call it? It's like a picture frame base.
Yeah,
right?
they have that bevel to it.
Yeah,
that
you
makes
can
it-
see the bevel is rounded on these bases here, right? So around the edges of the base, it has a nice curve that's more like a plinth or a display base, but done in the small form on the 30 millimeter round base. So rather than the convex curvature that you get on like War Machine bases and other 30 millimeter rounds, these have got a concave version on them. He has literally made some of the most amazing bases out there, like these shale cracked desert tops. And every one of them is perfect. Like, there's no bubbles. I'm touting his product is all I'm doing here. For a guy that's sitting around making, resin 2-part molds, he's knocking it out of the park. These are great. So kudos to him for going the extra mile in the hobby corridor here to deliver some really, really amazing stuff. Hopefully we'll get a chance to paint some of those up on stream for our Wild West Exodus journey. And last but not least, Assassin Red, a great viewer of ours. He's been around for coming up on, I don't even know now, Assassin. I think Assassin's been around at least 6 months now, probably. He'll have to correct me on that one. Assassin came to the channel as a beginning hobbyist in the painting community with miniatures, and literally throws his picture up the other night and says, hey man, like I'm having a problem making these leathers look old and gritty and new and shiny, and I was blown away. All right, I just have to say I'm blown away, Assassin. Assassin Red's abilities have grown tenfold from his first model, where he was literally just kind of putting paint to a model and playing with things to see what worked on his end with the paints he had, and has literally taken the time and invested the effort to get these techniques to where now I'm looking at leather cloaks that are bar none leather. Like literally leather versus metal models. Fantastic stuff. Thank you again for the follows out there. Great stuff from Assassin Red here. Regardless of the color choice, leather is leather, and as a texture on models is some of the hardest to get used to painting because of the way that leather wears. It doesn't highlight like a normal plastic or hard surface when you're dealing with soft surfaces and textures on clothing. You have to take a little bit of a different approach to it. Knocked that out of the park. These things are looking great. So wanted to throw that up there to show a little hobby love in that too. So keep the photos coming. We love it. Every week we'll be picking a handful of these to toss out. Every other week when we do the sit-down show like this, we'll be tossing a handful of these out there, so keep the good stuff coming. I'm amazingly impressed by every single picture that gets thrown up in our community gallery every single week. I'll take the time, believe it or not, even for those that are not posted up during my own stream, I take the time to go back and look at what you guys are doing and attach names to them. I love getting a feel for where everybody's, kind of hobby technique is at every different level. It helps me teach and to be able to know the language I need to use with individuals and as a group as a whole as to where you guys are going. And this whole group and community that we've got is literally getting to the point where we're going to have to go make, cigarette, what did I say, ashtrays out of palm fronds. We're going to have to find a new career because you guys are getting too good out there. So absolutely awesome stuff. Great as always. And guys, I feel like you could take 3 more health and so I could have fun and smash your screen.
Ooh, I'll let you take a roll for that one. But if you lose, you take 3 health.
Ooh, this is that risk reward we were talking about.
It is.
What's it up? 4 up? 50-50? Stop touching your thing. I'm stroking my beard.
Trying
Why
to
are you
distract.
touching your throw? Is it a 4 up?
Sure.
50-50? All right, here we go, gang. 4 up roll.
Wait, who's on top?
If Uncle Touchy loses his 4 up roll, right? I wound him on a 4 up. So 4, 5, or 6, he loses all his health, and we go to the outro with me wearing the Fat Lady Sings. But the risk is that if on a 1 to 3, I'm doomed, right? Is that how this is going to work? We're going for it. Yes! Yes! Yes!
Curse
No! No! Yes! Cha-ching! Cha-ching!
Didn't mean to make you cry. I'm not back again this time tomorrow. Carry on, 'cause nothing really matters.
Except taking all of Uncle Touchy's health at the last minute of the show. As always, guys, thank you so much for joining in with us for another wonderful episode of Wheels Off. Or, I mean, gloves off. I hope you guys have had a lot of fun. Hopefully our review of Deep Wars was good for you guys. Hope we gave you a lot of good info on it. It's a great game. If you have the opportunity to play it at a local demo or get your hands on it at a convention, please do. Go give a thumbs up to these guys at Antimatter Games for making a great game and being a good small studio to work in. No.
Is this thing still on?
You don't get to... I'll mute you.
Ooh, now you'll mute me.
I'll mute you.
Oh.
I'll mute that guy.
That only spares them, not you.
I will mute that guy.
Do it.
But I, wearing the crown, the fat lady is about to sing. And I would like to say that Uncle Touchy, apart from his wonderful robe choice, really ought to shave that chest. I feel like in a world where manliness is confusing these days, that a nice smooth chest accentuates one's ability to be confident in the realm of coolness, sexiness.
There was some dispute earlier.
It just needs to get shaved.
There was some dispute earlier in chat about whether he actually has enough chest hair
To wear it
be-
that way.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like he's in the in-between, and that's why I'm saying I think you should just get with it and shave it. Own it. Or grow more. Like, get a hair chest club for men thing
Some Rogaine
going on.
chest Rogaine.
Not only the president, but also a client. And with that, thank you guys so much. Thank you to all the new followers hitting that follow button during the show. Much appreciated for spending some time on Sunday. To all the old guys, you're still just old guys and girls. We love you every day of the week. Make sure to join us Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific as we head off and start painting our Arena Rex Tribune. Remember, it is Paint Along Week. It is the first Paint Along we have done in the Tribune as we kick off Arena Rex time. And all culminating in next Sunday's trip through a game of Arena Rex or multiple games of Arena Rex with guess who?
Who?
The Unicorn.
Oh.
Jentastic will be playing her first set of miniature games live on stream on her birthday next Sunday. So make sure to mark your calendars for that. It's going to be a ton of fun. We're booting Uncle Touchy out until he shaves his chest, but he's not welcome back. So he's going to actually marry a couple. This is Reverend Touchy, scariest thing I've ever heard in my life. He's going to go perform a ceremony for some of his friends back east, and they will consider this to be matrimony and probably have nightmares for the rest of their life. So until next week on Gloves Off, thank you so much. Come back and join us on Tuesday for the painting. We will see you guys later.
Bye,
Adios.
everybody.
Stay safe.
Hey, somebody likes us.